With us today, Mr. Keith Scott, who is representing the city. The city manager, John Moore, would be here, but he is out of town at a conference.
But you just keep it, I think Farrell had one more thing he wanted to say. Go ahead, Tom, go ahead.
Well, okay, just very quickly, this is on economic development, the fee in lieu of question that's come up in the past, and I just wanted to try, hopefully clarify this a little bit. A lot of people complain that we give a fee in lieu of and that we're losing tax money because we're dropping that from, what's the state, 10.5% for business, and we're knocking it down to 6 or 4 or whatever. But the point is, that everybody seems to miss, is if we don't do that, we get nothing. If we take a piece of agricultural land out here that the taxes on it per year might be $100, that's all you're going to get. If we can get a business to move in there, we're going to get 4 or 6% taxes then. But more important than that, if that company coming in hires 40 people at $40,000 a year, that's $1.6 million coming into this economy that's going to be taxed, that's going to go to buy cars, boats, houses, motorcycles, whatever. So forget that you're giving that fee in lieu of and losing 4% if you want to look at it that way. You're gaining a lot more than that from the taxes that are being paid by all those employees coming into the company. And if you don't play that game, you're not going to have any company move in here at all. And that was, I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you,
And one more thing, I want to piggyback on that. I did go down to that conference on fee in lieu of, and as you know, I was one of the biggest opponents of FOI, free in lieu of. But I came back with a different ideas about it. I still think that they use us. I still think that they come to us and say, with our arms folded behind the table, okay, what you gonna do for us? Because we have no choice. We have no choice. But it is something that we have to consider in order to remain competitive.
Thank you. Mr. Burns is going to touch on that just a little bit. Again, I apologize. What, Mr. Burns?
Keith, you ready? We have been meeting with Keith now probably for longer than Keith has been wanting for us to meet. Our city manager could not be with us today because he's at a conference out of town. Keith is the head of the transit department, and Keith is here to tell you what they propose as a service to Anderson County. However you want to do it, Keith.
Keith, we do appreciate you coming so much and coming take time with us and working with and our past partnership.
Yeah, good morning. Good to see you guys. Mr. Moore sends his regrets. Again, he is out of town at a conference, or he would have been here as well. Back in October of 2013, your county staff called the city and just asked if there was a possibility of the city putting together maybe a proposal for an additional option for you to consider for the bus route up to the Tri-County Tech area. And so we started working on that in October of 2013. And just to give you, not to go into a whole lot of detail of every meeting that we had, but just to give you a little bit of a summary of the route itself, what we're proposing, a cost, and those kind of things, is pretty much what I'm going to go through with you now. The route would operate on Monday through Friday from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. The route would begin at the Walmart at Liberty Highway, just as the connection with CAP works now. So the bus route would begin there. We would leave there at, first departure would be at 6:51 a.m., which is the same departure time that we have there currently. 51 minutes past the hour is the departure time for that route. So that time would continue to be the same. Then that route would then go up Highway 76, and would pick up passengers along the way, arriving at Tri-County Tech approximately 10 to 15 minutes past the hour. Then after those pickups at Tri-County Tech would return back down 76, back to the Walmart on Liberty Highway, and would be back there approximately 40 minutes past the hour. With the last departure each day from Walmart being at 5:51 p.m., which is now still the current last departure time from the Walmart area. And the last pickup at Tri-County Tech would be at 6:10 p.m. The route is about 19 miles round trip from the Walmart up to Tri-County and back. As part of the city's proposal, this route would charge a fare. The fare schedule would be just like the fare schedule that the Electric City Transit operates now. It's a 50-cent fare for adults. It's a 25-cent fare for seniors, disabled, and Medicare card holders. We've estimated the fare collection to be approximately $20,000 a year. What we did is we just took the numbers that the county staff provided us with, which was in 2013, the calendar year. They had a total ridership of 147,262 rides. The Anderson segment of the ridership was 45,774 rides. So taking the 45,000, we just estimated that if everybody paid 50 cents, that it would, be around 20,000. Hopefully it'd be more than that.
Would you say that revenue figure one more time?
The fare collection,
Yeah, the fare collection. revenue.
we would estimate it at $20,000 a year.
20. Sorry.
We would estimate the cost of the route to be $250,000 a year. $250,000 a year. Then the fares come off of the $250,000. So you take $250,000 minus the $20,000, so that gives you $230,000. And then that would be divided up between the federal funds that would be available and local funds.
Which would bring it down to the county at what cost?
Well, based on what, if you've got $230,000, that would be, what, 65, 130, 115,000 each. And then any of the local funds that you have would come off of the 115. Okay, so if I understand correctly,
The Tri-County Tech.
Tri-County Tech
115.
would be, is putting in $50,000. So that $50,000 would come off of the local match side. That would be local match. So of the 115, then you would take 50,000 off of that. Okay?
Which would leave you at 65.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am. I think Ms. Wilson had it.
Sure.
I understand that we will pretty quickly, within the next 2 or 3 years, be responsible for purchasing an additional bus for the city.
Correct. We have 3 spare buses in our fleet now. For us to take on an additional route, we would use one of those spare buses to start the route.
But why would we be responsible for purchasing a bus, a route that you would be paid to do? It would be your business, so to speak. And is there any possibility of maybe consolidating a few trips? I know there's some trips that are not used very much, and then there are other trips where the buses are filled. There's strategic times.
Well, again, we haven't operated this system, or this route before, so we're not sure exactly what trips that would be, or, we certainly can, as we begin doing that, we can adjust as we go. But typically for the city to be able to operate any additional routes, especially those that operate outside the city limits, our council would make the session that it would have to be at no additional cost to the city for us to be able to do that. So any purchases.
Are you running in the black within your city boundaries now, or are you running in the red with the bus service?
Well, the basis of our system is that we operate at a break-even standpoint. So
break even.
that is our deal. We take whatever our actual costs are for the month, and then we draw down. We get reimbursed by the federal government and the state for the percentage that they pay.
So would there be that likelihood in this proposal you're making that federal and state funds would kick in and it would be at no cost to the county?
No, the county would be responsible for the local match percentage.
And what
The
would
federal
that
and the
be
state,
projected?
for an operations standpoint, it's a 50-50 operation. It's 50% federal, 50% local. Now, state is considered local, okay? So if there are additional funds that come from the state for the route, then that would be considered part of the local match.
Which we have already talked to the state people and told them to explore that possibility that could possibly, but absolutely not guarantee that the 115 for the route to check cost could come down. But they haven't guaranteed that, but we have asked them that.
Well, we do know that we have remaining funds in the federal grant of about 75,000. So this year would probably be no problem, but the next year we would be hit with a substantial need.
I think it'd be 65,000 plus the bus.
Plus the bus. Yeah.
What we would have for the upcoming budget year, I don't think that the cost to the county would exceed $70,000 for the upcoming budget year. Then in year 2, and definitely by 3, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Keith, the county, under y'all's proposal, would be obligated to purchase a bus. And the federal to local split on that is how much, Keith?
83% federal, 17% local.
To purchase a bus.
To purchase a bus.
Yes, ma'am.
But
But
depending on what kind of bus that you purchase, cost
Well,
of the
my
bus.
biggest heartburn in all of this is it's been so hard to nail down numbers, responsibilities, and so forth. And it's it's a delicate balance to ask the poor people in some areas of the county who don't get service to subsidize the needs for others. And I felt like our committee did manage to get to the bottom of some of the information, but for example, the last presentation we were chatting, the city line from downtown to Walmart and Tri-County Tech would be 125,000. And then we were going, oh good, the projections or fares are 12 to 15,000 and that could be taken off, and we're close. We're starting to cobble this together, and that is the difficulty. It seems like a moving target. So, well, thank you.
So, you know, but, yeah.
Ms. Fuller?
Yes, I do. But mine is gonna be, numbered, and I want facts. All right, this is going to happen. There's a need for it in Anderson County. People all around us are now beginning to see the importance of a transportation system, not only to the schools, but even around their particular areas and communities, okay? So what I want to know is this. I want you to compare the CAT bus to the city bus. Now, I was not privy to the meetings that was going on around here, you know. But here's what I want you to do for me and for these people here. I have conceded, first of all, that it's not going to be the CAT bus. So what I'm going to do now is I want to work with the city, if you get the contract or anybody else that's going to do it. Tell me, draw a line down the middle of your paper, put CAT bus on one side, tell me city bus on the other side, okay? How much the CAT bus was going to charge us, how much the city will charge. Show me a savings there.
If I can.
Well,
That would be something our staff will put together for everybody. They'll get the numbers from the city, but we know and I don't speak to you, Keith, I don't think you would have all the information we'd have as far as what the CAT bus would be.
yeah, I'm not sure what they
So
would
we
have charged you or those type of
Okay,
things.
but-
I'm sure your folks would
But,
have.
yeah, but listen, this is a retreat, and this is why we come.
Yes.
Okay, do you have that information that I'm looking for?
Ms. Lloyd, currently the CAT bus charges $180,000
Thank
a
you.
year. The city is proposing, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Keith, pop me if I do, it would be about 115. We don't know the true fare cost right now, but we think that's how much it would cost. We would take that money, and we've already reduced the fare, whatever, the fare comes in, but you have offered, the city has offered to give us an absolute number on how much we would have to come up with, correct? And I think you also stated that if we were off a little bit, that you wouldn't come back and say, hey, I need this.
Well, of course, my cost is estimated, Okay, so we haven't run the route yet, we haven't based on, but my cost is based on, we already run the Homeland Park route. That route runs about a
We
round
haven't
trip.
got to that one yet.
But,
Yeah.
but it runs about 12 miles round trip versus this one 19-mile round trip. Not a lot of difference in the operation. Operational, they're the same. The difference in the cost would be maintenance, fuel, and those kind of things. So we don't really see a big increase over the cost of what Homeland Park route would be to what the other route would be. So it's kind of given us a basis already to kind of come up with our costs.
Okay, well, maybe it's just me here, you know, but you're not answering my question.
Okay?
My question was, and he just gave us the figure for the cat bus. Give me your estimated figure of this.
If our estimated cost is $250,000 total cost, if you take that and you do a 50-50 split from the federal government to the local government, maximum you're looking at 125 on the federal side. I mean on the county side. Okay? Now you have fares that come off of that, and then any other local funds that you have that come into the county would come off of that.
Such as Tri-County Tech.
Such as
And I
Tri-County
believe
Tech.
Roughly, if our estimate's right on fire, we looking at roughly $65,000.
That would be about the basis of what you're looking at.
Well, see, it's the first figure I've heard.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
But comparing us to CAT, let me say, I'm a big fan of CAT as well. With Al and Keith up there, and we get along great. So we certainly did not try to come in and say we wanted to step over them to operate. We just certainly took a phone call that we had and provided the information they asked us to provide. So as far as comparing the two, I don't know that would necessarily be too bad.
Okay, well, Keith, that's good, that's commendable. I hope that we didn't drag you into something here, but we do have a problem that needs to be resolved here once and for all, okay? We can't not just put this off. Okay, now you said you had a bus that you would loan, give, or to the
We
county.
would operate, yes.
Yeah, we will have to buy a new bus when, in the next year, the year after?
Well, I would encourage it as soon as possible. Because our spare buses that we have already met their life expectancy.
Okay, now,
So-
what about the Homeland Park bus?
Mhm.
Is that, no, we purchased that one.
No, the city purchased it. That was actually we received 2 buses from the federal government at 100%. None of us paid for those. The city didn't have to pay anything, nor the county.
For the Homeland Park bus, we didn't
Correct.
pay? All right, well, can we get another free bus?
Well, if they would give us another stimulus package, I would say yes.
Okay, so
that was bought with the ARA stimulus money that came out of the federal government.
I could have sworn that Anderson County did something though for that bus.
Those were paid at 100% by the federal government.
All right. You're the expert here, I will accept that. Okay, but could we get a grant or something else like that to get another bus?
Sure. Actually, I have buses that are in my grants as we go now, because we have buses that come up for replacement. So I have buses that are in those grants now as replacement, and then if we get to the point to need this bus, it'll be part of those grants as well.
Okay, Keith, others have questions too. I would like to go ahead and, if that's all right with you? Yeah, okay. The next thing is, you gave us the schedule. Is it the same schedule that CAT ran up and down the road?
It would be right on the same schedule from the Walmart to Tri-County.
Yeah, there's no difference in the scheduling, right?
But the differences would be that we would only go to Tri-County.
Oh,
When
you
we
won't
go
to
up,
Clemson.
we would not go and continue on to Clemson or continue into Pendleton.
But if I could interject.
There's a plan, we're working on
And-
something like that.
Well, see, I need to know.
Yes, ma'am. Keith and I and others have met with 3 other entities who would possibly pick up the route from Tri-County Tech to Clemson. We know for a fact that when Clemson University completes their project to take the students, the bridge program students who now attend Tri-County Tech, they're moving the bridge students on campus. So there will be a bus going back constantly, but that's in 15. But we have
In what, year 15?
15, but we have been assured, and Keith was at that meeting, that if council decides to pursue this, which would require a resolution saying that we want to do this, then we believe that the other route will fall into place. A
Okay.
little bit from Tri-County Tech to Clemson.
Will it cost us anything?
There's a great possibility it won't, Ms. Floyd, but where we are right now, we cannot deal with those other entities until we have this part hammered out.
Why would anybody tell me that? I mean, why? You know, I have asked you several times to be a part of.
I'm
these
sorry,
meetings.
but I thought I had.
No, you didn't. But I have asked several times to be a part of these meetings, you never called me.
Well, just us.
It was in our
I
minutes.
clean up. Yeah.
Well, Ms. Floyd, I can assure you it was just
Yeah.
staff working on this.
After, the minutes is after the meeting. One other thing, Keith, and I'm gonna let you go, I promise you I will. How soon can you start this thing?
If everything falls into place
Would you
fairly.
be ready to go July 1?
Yes, ma'am.
You can be ready to go. Okay, briefly, Homeland Park. Is Homeland Park gonna be all right? Nobody's gonna touch it and nobody's gonna mess with it?
Everything should go just as normal,
I'm counting on that.
according to,
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, but I believe that our expense on the Homeland Park bus right now is $108,000 a year. Our match.
109.
108, 109. Again, that varies with the fares.
And Homeland
Quick
Park has always paid to ride.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so those people, will continue to have to pay, right?
Correct.
Uh-huh.
And they pay the same fare as I just laid out for.
Yeah, the 50
50
cents.
and a quarter, yes.
And a quarter, that's it. Okay.
Quick clarification, your $250,000 estimate includes Homeland Park?
No, ma'am.
No.
Oh,
This is what you have. Next year, to run the Homeland Park
so
line
that means 65,000 plus $108,000 down.
for next year, Rita, shoot me if I'm wrong, next year to the county total, if I'm not mistaken, I think we would be capping it around 70, okay? Because we still have money left over from the federal grant and the money from Tri-County Tech. The following year, you're going to pay probably around 120, I'm saying that, for the tech line, and you would still be paying 108 for the Homeland Park line. So you take those two numbers, and that would be the county's local match, right there.
It's 2 years away, really, basically.
Yes, sir, 2 years away, not next year, 2 years away. Rita, am I right?
I need a minute.
Yes, sir. Mr. Crowder?
Well, my question is, when can we get this in writing? You know, I've asked, when can we get a written
We have a
proposal that says,
specific proposal
well, this
in
will
the
do it?
contract.
You know,
We were told 2 months
everything is,
ago.
Yeah, we had actually given you guys a proposal, and then, in January, we had a city council meeting in executive session where we shared that with, city council.
yeah,
Because again, city council has to approve any expansions or any changes that we have in our routes. So, and in that meeting, the city council gave us the green light to pursue, any contract talks or anything with the county.
But
As far as the
but
route.
what we need, if I understood you right, Mr. Crowder, is a sample of that contract.
you know, we need to say, I
Not-
mean, we
not
need to know what
concerned.
it is we're signing on to.
Not concerned, not primarily how much it is, but also
That's
what it is, who runs it, how it's operated. And that's what Mr. Crowder, that's what he's looking for.
all.
I have one final comment, and this is what really is very troubling to me. We are unable to provide funding adequate to fix our roads, and yet we're proposing to put up another $200,000 or $300,000 of public money to provide a bus that travels over those substandard roads. That's really troubling.
I know
The
that,
good thing about that is when you do have the buses that travel over those roads, you're taking a lot of cars off the road.
And
So,
according to folks who've come before us, they need that because they don't have
Sure.
cars. And
Well-
thank you very much.
You're very
And I
welcome.
look forward to seeing this in writing so we have clear numbers to focus on.
go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Just very quick, I'm gonna make this very simple. The numbers that we heard today Can you put those on a piece of paper, Rusty? Because I guarantee you, by the time we walk out of here today, none of the 30 of us in here are gonna have the same numbers.
Let me just say this, we're gonna get this, the numbers in paper, everybody will get from the city. Keith couldn't give you nothing, Mr. Scott couldn't give you nothing, he talked to his boss, city administrator and city council, give everything. That process happens, so they'll get your numbers. This is, putting this together, this is more than one entity.
Yeah.
We want this thing to go, I envision it like it was to get the job, the people from point A to point B, which would be all the way to Clemson University. So there's another group that's got to be talked to, but we got to get to this one before we get to the next one. The staff have been working on this and made some contacts, get it, the council, get all of this out. As far as the numbers today, keep in mind, and as far as, I hope we're gonna get this a little bit more later on about our road situation, about the funds. And on the buses, you know, we can sit here and look, now you got the immediate future, which is next year, it would be $65,000 as we speak, roughly, if we come up with somebody else out of pocket for the bus route to Tech, to get from the Walmart to Tech. To continue operating the Homeland Park bus route will be roughly $109,000. So I just want to make sure that, and all, Ms. Crowder, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think in all the discussions we've had in the last few months, it's really been strictly the bus route to home, to Walmart, to Tech, because that's one that we had to have an answer for, and that's one we've been working on. Is that not correct? And so we're not don't get confused. Sure. A with B. We're supposed to solve one problem at a time. Get on something like that.
Yeah, we did lay the groundwork for the other part of the pie.
Yes.
To be able to bring in the Pendleton and the
Exactly.
Clemson route, because it would not be total, especially the Clemson part of it. So,
Ms. Floyd?
Mr. Burns,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
asking you again, one time.
Yes, ma'am.
Publicly again.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. If you get together with the group
Yes, ma'am.
to discuss this, I want to be a part of the group. I do not want to meddle in your business, but I would like to get the same type information when the others have it as well. I like to know, as I don't like when folks tell me, when my folks up here tell me things like, it's gonna be 65. How do you know that and I don't know it? Let me remind you, this is history, folks, okay? It was I who started the transportation system, okay? It was, the vision was given to me. I gave it to the administrator at the time who worked it, who brought it to fruition. It has always been one of my passions, and I don't want to be cut out of it. I've told you this over and over again. I will not meddle, I promise you. I will even bring a note that says, Lord, please help me keep my big mouth shut, and I will listen. But I want to be included on what's happening with that transportation system.
What I'm hoping now, the request from council that I'm hearing loud and clear is that we're asking the city for a contract and the dollar figures that would be shared with every member of council.
That's right, and I want to make
And absolutely with.
anything we do is in public. We got understood from the sign. We got to get, and I want to make sure that, to clarify a little bit, and I know, these are the first time that I've heard the $65,000, and I just took it out of what Mr. Scott told. I just deducted it from that and let him come up with $65,000, and he just told us 108. So trying to get everybody to get the same information, wouldn't I?
Mr. Chairman, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Can you put a trailer hitch on that bus to pull a bass boat?
We could probably do that.
All right.
Is there anything
You
else?
got fishing on
Sir?
your
Anything else?
No, sir, and they're under, a couple of members are under a tight time frame here.
Anyone have anything else from Mr. Scott? We appreciate it, look forward to that information.
Excuse me, Mr. Scott is supposed to talk to us about something else, is he not?
Keith can tell you this, but I know that the city, as they have for the last 4 or 5 years, has an interest in the second floor of the McCants building.
And just to kind of, just add a little bit to that, with the continued partnership, if this is a partnership that we continue on to Tri-County and those type of things, we would be operating 3 routes. The county, through us, would be operating 2 routes. We just think that'd be a great opportunity for us to look at that possibility of bringing it all together on the second floor.
Excuse me for interrupting you, but
Sure.
is it possible you can stay with us a little longer?
Sure.
Because if someone else needs to go ahead, let's let them do that.
Sure.
But this was an important part of what we're to discuss today. And I would like for it to be more than just a notification, because we have questions. So if you could just stay with us a little longer.
Be glad to.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
may I
ma'am.
quickly point out, we still owe a lot of debt on McCants. Is it about 2.5 million?
I'm not sure, but we can get you the absolute figure.
Well, we might be able to trade out some debt service for bus service.
But wait to see if she'll get that number.
Mr. Burns, at this time, the airport advisory committee has come before us, to make a recommendation. It's been a fine discussion. At this time, I turn it over to the chairman, Vito.
Thank you, council and guests. It's good to be here. Good morning, Anderson. Good morning, county council and the residents of Anderson County and guests. Just a little side note, there was a little boy up in Sevierville, Tennessee, and he liked flying. I'm an avid pilot. I love flying. I have it in my blood. I love Anderson Airport. Well, he always went to the fair. There's a little fair that came to this little town. Every year there was a man giving helicopter rides. You know, $50. Well, he couldn't afford it, you know, so every year he went. And finally married, he took his wife for the first year to the fair and said, "Darling, can we get a little helicopter ride?" And she said, "Well, you know, it's $50. And, you know, we just got married, $50 is $50. And he said, "Well, okay." So the kids graduated from college and they went back to the fair year after year. "Honey, you think we could take that helicopter ride now? The kids are out of school." "Well, you know, we're still paying for the college education, and $50 is $50. He said, "Well, you're right, darling." So they were up in their 80s, and he was with a little cane, and there was that same pilot and that little helicopter with a sign there, $50 for a helicopter ride. He said, "Darling, if I don't get this helicopter ride now, I'll probably never get this helicopter ride." Well, the pilot overheard the conversation. He walked over to me and says, "You know, I've watched you like this, grow up, coming around this fair. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to give both of you a ride for free. The only drawback is you can't say one word, not even a peep." They both jumped in there smiling, and that pilot took him over the mountains, and he went upside down and sideways and everything he could do. Wasn't even a peep. He landed on the ground, and he went up to that man and he said, "I'm just amazed." And neither one of them just said a word. He said, "Well, you know, when you turn that helicopter sideways and my wife fell out, I was going to say something, but $50 is $50. Anyway, my name is Don Acevedo. I'm the chairman of the board at the Anderson County Regional Airport, and it's a great honor to be on that committee. And with me today is Mr. Wes Halsey, vice chairman, and Dr. Vic Tomlinson, who's on the committee as well. We want to thank all of you for the ongoing support for our wonderful county airport. We also want to thank you for allowing us to make this presentation today. On behalf of the Anderson Airport Committee members, our excitement for the county airport is to propose a new terminal building. Anderson County Airport is the crossroads for the upstate. All the updates, modifications to our approach system, in my opinion, are the best. Our runways have been extended. Our tarmac has been upgraded extensively to accommodate large aircraft, which is being used today. Taxiways and lighting systems have already been upgraded. We by far have the best airport in the upstate, in my opinion. And as a pilot, I go to a lot of surrounding airports in the state, lower part of the state, and we do have a wonderful facility. We do have a wonderful facility. At present, we do have several corporate jets that do use our facility. We need to take the next step in providing our corporate and general aviation pilots a place they can be proud of to land, relax, take fuel, visit our maintenance facility, and of course visit the concession area. And with all of this, it brings revenue for Anderson County. Let's make our airport the best in the upstate. And at this time, I'm going to let Mr. Halsey make his presentation on airport design and cost factors.
Thank you, Mr. Acevedo. Mr. Chairman, Council, thank you very much for hosting this today. And if I could pass out a copy of our presentation here.
Read.
And
Ms. Floyd.
Again, my name is Wes Halsey, Vice Chair of the Airport Advisory Committee. I wanted to take issue with Ms. Floyd. She was looking directly at me when she was talking about aging folks in Anderson County. I have her to know that I'm only 25 years old. Just kidding. Thank you again for having us. We're not here as representing the Airport Advisory Committee to sell a new terminal. We're here to recommend that we create a path forward to evaluate if we can pull together funding necessary for a new terminal. And I'll let Mr. Acevedo give a little background about the information that we heard regarding the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission and funding that has come.
Dr. Hunt, in our last meeting, was able to make a presentation to us. He's on the Aeronautics Commission, and there were funds available for us for a new terminal. We also looked at renovations, and I'll pass around some of the pictures that the architects and engineers took of the building that exists now. And you know, I started looking at this renovation proposal and looking at some of the numbers, and I just thought to myself, you know, for just a little bit more, we could really have a new terminal, something really nice for Anderson County. Some of those numbers Dr. Hunt presented to us. Mr. Halsey and I will be attending the SCAA convention next week, where we'll get more information about funding for new airports.
Okay. Where's the best place for me to stand for y'all to see the, would it be better if I stood over here?
I think that'd be fine.
Okay. If we could go ahead and start our presentation. Again, this is presented as a recommendation by the Airport Advisory Committee. Keep on keep running. And there's our airport. And again, in recent years, Mr. Burns, the runways were extended, and how were those projects funded?
Federal.
Okay, federal funding for extension of the runways and also paving tarmac. In advance there. The Anderson Airport is really the gateway to Anderson County. For companies that are coming into town, into the county, looking for sites for industrial and economic development. Also, owners of airplanes who tend to be individuals with wealth and are looking for investment. And when they come to Anderson County, we want to make a good first impression. You, the council, have invested in the past in the airport. It is certainly an enterprise fund and a source of revenue for the county. We're seeing that this investment is paying off in economic development over the past few years. And of course, that first impression leads to new industry, which leads to economic development and also jobs and improved quality of life for the citizens of Anderson County. And there's our airport terminal, which has served us well over the years. However, is that the first impression that we want to make today? We have the terminal has some deficiencies, some structural issues, some mechanical, electrical, and plumbing issues that are currently not in code. It's also in dire need of renovation and facelift at a minimum. Some of the existing conditions, Mr. Acevedo is going to pass around some photos that will depict the current conditions at the airport. And as I talk, if you can take a look at those, we've got some severe structural deficiencies. One that I'll point out, we actually have a soffit on an overhang that is falling down, and there are some support jacks to hold up that soffit to keep it falling on the roof. And those jacks, we're not even certain that there is a structural wall underlying the jacks to hold up that soffit. Let's take a look at what some of our neighbors are doing. This is a Pickens County Airport terminal, which was built in 2009. I would recommend if you have a half a day to go up to Pickens County, call the airport manager, they'll be happy to show it off. Pickens County Council has actually hosted their retreat at their new terminal facility. They have a beautiful conference room. This was built at a cost of $811,000. And it's approximately between 4,000 and almost 4,800 square feet as a rustic mountain theme. And as you walk out onto the tarmac, you've got a panoramic view of the mountains. And the theme of that airport terminal really fits with the theme and the setting of Pickens County. This is the former Spartanburg Regional Terminal, and that's the before picture. This is what it looks like today. And again, it's just a short 45-minute drive up the road. I would recommend taking a tour of that facility. One of my employees, civil engineer, is a flight instructor at that airport on the weekend. This renovation, and again, this is a renovation, but it was a fairly substantial renovation where they gutted the entire building down to the structure. And it was built at a cost of approximately $2.5 million. And you're looking at the flight operations desk there to your left, and also a lobby and waiting area in the terminal. It almost has a retro feel from the 1950s, but it is a beautiful terminal. There is the conference or boardroom at the Spartanburg Regional Airport, where they host a number of meetings, both corporate and associated with the airport. Spartanburg County received approximately $500,000 in grant funds through the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission for this project. They also solicited support from investors and contributors in the community to fund this project. Before we move on, I want to pass out, let's see, did Mr. Acevedo hand out?
We got this.
Okay. If you can kind of thumb through and just take a look at some other airport terminal concepts. Most of these are in Georgia. This architect had provided me with a copy of their presentation. And you can just thumb through some concepts and also the photos after they're constructed.
I noticed one of the pictures had a picture of a, I believe the Spartanburg had a picture of a air traffic control tower.
Yes.
Do we have numbers? Do we know the need of that, or?
Well, actually, that the control tower is no longer in use, and the control tower was converted into an observation deck, so you can go up to the stairs and look over the runway and also the tarmac and see the T-hangers. And it's a beautiful facility, but I don't necessarily know what the need is for a control tower there.
I just wondered, is there a federal requirement that says if you have so many flights or so many kinds of aircraft, you have to have a control tower? Is there a cutoff point at which you do or don't? I don't know.
Mr.
I don't
Acevedo?
think that's required, because they closed a lot of the towers down, and a lot of the flight service stations,
Yeah.
they closed them down. Unless you get into a probably Class B airspace, but our airport's just not big enough
Yeah,
to get into that class.
We really don't need that.
Right, right. And I wanted to say real quick that I'd like to mention, we now have a Part 139 license, which we've been working on for a long time, and we got that, and we've passed all the requirements. We do have that, which means that we can have big aircraft come in, larger aircraft. We do house the basketball team for Clemson University, they coming out of there, so we do have that 139. So other big jets could come in with cargo, with people, because we're
Ms. Floyd?
Thank you. What are you proposing here? Are you proposing a renovation? Are you proposing knocking out the old and bringing in the new?
We are proposing that we investigate funding for a new terminal building.
All right, so we're not talking renovations here. We're talking about just
Right.
raising the old and
They've got, I think in just a second you're gonna talk about renovations, ain't you?
Yes.
What y'all done, explain about the reason, the reason they come to this conclusion.
Mayor,
Ms. Wilson?
just so we've all got the same information, our airport is an enterprise fund, and it has to operate as a business type fund. And thank you to all of this very active, energetic, knowledgeable commission that's been very diligent here. Would it be appropriate if our council tasked you via resolution to seek and evaluate funding sources, not including but not limited to sponsorships, grants, as well as potential plans, and provide us with regular updates? That as an enterprise fund, the airport does have the ability to float special source revenue bonds even. So I think we need to look closely at all of our numbers while you're evaluating and providing us the backup information.
Well, I think on their proposal, they get in detail about some funding, some cost, and why they feel like it's the better option to build a new terminal versus the renovation thing. We'll discuss
There's a
that.
picture that you just handed down that looks very unsafe.
May I finish?
Yes.
May I finish?
Yes, Ms. Floyd.
Thank you. My question was the fact that when we're talking about a new and an old one, okay, how much longer do you think that we could stay with the one that we have? I mean, is it important that we hurry and do this because of some unforeseen reason? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And if, in my summary, I can address both those questions. We have received from our consultant an opinion of probable cost to renovate the terminal. Now, this is a minor renovation to fix only the major problems, to address some of these problems that we've seen. And that cost is $402,000. And if you can advance, the grant funds available from the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission for renovation is only $50,000. However, for a new terminal, there's grant funding up to $500,000 from the state of South Carolina. Our consultant has also advised us that there is other potential sources of funding, up to $1 million available from the FAA. And also we've discussed soliciting sponsorships from the various industries and corporations in our community. The committee is basically recommending to council, if this grant funding is made available to the county, that we move forward with the new terminal. And as far as forward action, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Burns, but county council would need to authorize staff to proceed with the following. One, apply for the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission grant. And that needs to be done as soon as possible, because I believe there's $2 million in that fund, and it's going to be doled out on a first come, first served basis.
And may we also add, we're very fortunate to have Dr. John Hunt on that board from Anderson County, who previously served on Airport Advisory Committee.
And Dr. Hunt advised us that we must move with all haste.
Well, the thing that's bothering me now about this, Mr. Rusty, what are we doing about the jail system? We know that we've got to build a new jail, or unlike the airport, they will take it from us and build it themselves and make us pay for it. So how are we in that standing?
In that situation, we are putting Band-Aids on the jail. We have talked, really been inundated with a number of people who would be happy to build a jail for Anderson County. Some want to build a jail and do the financing. I think several members of council I spoke to are totally against that because that becomes a financing deal rather than a building
Well,
deal.
see, I didn't know that.
But I mean, they're almost, Miss Floyd, they're out there almost every week coming by wanting to do this. And then to build a jail, we have had estimates done just by people doing them. We haven't paid for them. From 30 million to 15 million to adding on a space to closing down a space, 15 different combinations. But if council is interested in that, then an ad hoc committee should be formed to look into that.
Well, see, what's concerning me now is the fact that the airport is here and they're saying that they need a new facility. And looking at pictures and stuff and listening to talk, you know, I can understand and I can see it. But I know that we need a jail. And I know that unlike the airport, if we don't build it soon, feds will come down here, and this is the truth. Feds will come down here, they will take away what we have, they will build it themselves, and they will hand us the bill. You're gonna pay for it. I don't want that to happen. But so my thing is, which is more important? Can we do both at the same time? If not, we need to make a decision here.
And that is a council decision, and that's the purpose of this retreat, for council to set priorities for staff to follow. And I'm sorry.
I just want on the, and Mr. Crowder was asking before next, but I just want to interject here on the airport. You know, trying to keep things back. Envisioning the airport and the advisory committee's recommendations and their plan and their thing, this would almost pay for itself with very little funds and what we envision. I don't take with some of their funding sources. I know they won't talk about that. So that's a big difference between that and the jail. Mr. Crowder.
Well, the second big difference is the airport fund has already been articulated by Ms. Wilson, is an enterprise fund and does not technically require Anderson County taxpayers technically to fund any of it because they have to, quote, fend for themselves. Whereas the jail does impact the general fund of Anderson County, and so we got two things we're dealing with, and neither one contingent upon the other because the airport's supposed to pay for itself, but the jail can't pay for itself. So technically we could do both.
If all the grant funding fell into place, which is, you never can know until you go there and they say, yeah, you're gonna get it.
But if we get back on track with it, so proceed on.
Okay. At this point, we have the opinion that forward action is for council to authorize staff to proceed with applying for the grant funds. First, through the South Carolina Aviation or Aeronautics Commission, I think is the highest priority because those funds are available first come, first served. The second step would be to hire an architect to develop some conceptual plans for a new terminal building that fit the theme and the setting for Anderson County. And again, this is not to do a full architectural design. This is just to provide some concepts, very similar to what you see in the packet that we handed out. Also, we would recommend that the county hire a consultant to apply for the FAA grant. And it's possible that staff may be available to apply as well, but I would have to defer to Mr. Burns' experience and recommendation there. And then to designate representatives of the county to approach the industries here in the county to solicit sponsorship for the airport, that we actually allow them to put their name on the signage at the front of the terminal or sponsor a particular room, whether it's the pilot's lounge, and actually participate and become, have some ownership in the terminal. And that is our recommendation, and if you have any other questions, please feel free to direct those to Mr. Acevedo.
I just want to say I appreciate y'all coming out and what y'all done, and what I would like to see done is as I told y'all, the gentleman before we met, is working with staff, y'all's committee, whether it be 2 or 3, and let's put a committee together with councilmen and see what we need to do about moving this forward. You know, as I said before about an architect or design group, you know, we need to have some people come in and talk to us and say how big we need a building. We've discussed this before, whatnot, and get something and move this forward. We need to look at this, move this forward, and do what we can do, and definitely speed this process up and get the applying for the grants, council, that we can as far as these state things Dr. Hunt's advised, and I think we stand a very good chance of doing that. And I plan on doing that next council meeting, setting this in motion. Fellow council members have an order. Mr. Allen?
Yeah, just very quickly, we can, Mr. Burns left, but we can take care of the jail. Mr. Burns, if you would, there's a jail architect by the name of Mr. Arpaio. Joe's the first name. I think he can expand the room out there very cheaply for you.
I believe that would involve us calling Army surplus and see what chance they have available.
But seriously, I want to thank the airport committee and everyone that's worked out there. Don, you guys have done a great job. I'm a big supporter of the airport. I'll volunteer to come out and cut grass or whatever, but there's probably a conflict of interest if I'm still on council. I don't know. But I want to thank you for what you've done. I agree 100% with you. We need to do this. It's critical for our economic development, and I just like airplanes anyway too. And I'll be glad to work with Don and do anything he says except let him cook a hamburger for me. I'm gonna let him do that. But thank you, Don.
The whole idea is wonderful. It's a good idea. And I too would like to have a beautiful place where people coming to Anderson on planes for the first time will look at the airport and see us, what to expect, and that's important. But the concern is a jail. Now, it's as if it is, as they say down there, that it's an enterprise fund, number one, and it'll pay for itself, then we can build both. You know, you build the airport and we build the jail. Because if it's an enterprise fund and you can get the money and you can get the grant, I'll vote, let's go for it.
Well, Ms. Floyd, if we can increase economic development in the county, I'm hoping we can keep people out of the jail, so.
Well, it's not gonna happen. Let's be realistic. It's not gonna happen. And the law, anyway, the feds say, this is not us. The feds say that we have to build a new jail.
Ms. Wilson?
Is it time for dinner?
You have any
Just a
comments?
big thank you. This is a very, very engaged board, and we're very thankful for your diligence.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Also wanted to say, we have an outstanding staff out at the airport, and I just want to praise them and their efforts to operate that facility. What a great facility we have.
Floyd?
That was very good.
You got anything?
I'm good with the direction you're moving. Keep moving until you run into a brick wall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If hang on just a second, y'all would. If this all right, with council members, we can take no vote. If anybody have any objections, the staff sort of moves forward with something for the next council meeting, I put the meeting together, anything, move this forward and work with them. And so we'll move this forward and we'll do something next council meeting too, make something official with the staff and keep y'all, we want to move this forward with Mr. Burns.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Pleasure, council.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we, again, thank y'all. Mr. Burns?
Thank you,
So,
Chairman.
Mr. Dunn, if you don't mind, if we could go ahead and have lunch.
Yeah.
And then just delay that other presentation.
Yeah.
Is that all right, council?
Yeah, I mean, is it ready?
Yes, sir.
Lunch ready now?
Yes, sir.
As long as it's not chicken.
You know that I don't like that. You didn't. You're still doing all right. Art, you're welcome to join us.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about that. Okay, thank you. Have a good deal. Yes, sir. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
He's on the telephone, he'll make a video call.
I know you are. You're a trained professional.
Ma'am, yes, here.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Just to kind of to drop back to where we were talking about the Old Mechanic Schools. Just to revisit that a little bit, as cooperation and partnership that we do have in the transit system, we still would like to revisit the possibility of the city being given the second floor of the Old Mechanic School, and then by doing that, we would be able to apply for federal grants that would be able to remodel the second floor. The county, I think, has already done a lot of the work as far as the envelope of the building, the roof, the windows, a lot of those kind of things. But by doing that, then the city could use the value of the property as a local match. So it wouldn't necessarily be any money out of pocket to be able to do that. And then you could draw down the federal money to renovate just the second floor. So that's just something that we still have an interest in. I know we've talked about that for a number of years now. But, you know, if we still continue to partner with the transit and things like that, having an appointed place for it to be and being able to make that spot a little bit more conducive to doing what we need to for transit and having our offices and, you know, having a lobby area for passengers and things like that to really be, you know, what it needs to be for the transit system would be nice.
Mr.
Floyd?
Okay. I think it's time for Anderson County to get real about the mechanics building. It was purchased at a time when we were going through a Camelot period. There was plenty of money to go around, the economy was doing well, and there were plans for it. But then, I'm sure you know, the economy crashed and everything, and now it's just sitting there. We can't afford to fix it up, to do any more, so it can be more than what it was. You know, the county just don't have the money. It's true that we do have an $8 million bond, you know, left on it, and it's just sitting there. And not only is sitting there, it's dilapidating. You know, it's killing itself. I've talked to several people throughout this county, and I have yet to have one person to tell me, don't give it to it, you know, don't work with the county. Now, when you said give it to them, that caused some concern. Would you please explain? People don't understand what you mean by giving it to them. Everybody wants something.
Well, you know, we look at it as a partnership with you guys and something that we can kind of do together. But for us to be able to apply for federal grants, we would have to have some ownership of the property. And when I say of the property, I'm talking about just the second floor area. I think in the past 2 or 3 years ago, the city and the county went in together and did a regime document. And in that regime document, what it does is just like it does at condos at the beach or anything else, it allows you to assign a value to a fixed area of that building instead of having to have a cost or a value for the whole building. You're actually breaking it up into sections, and the regime document would just kind of lay out what common areas would be that we all took part in as members of the facility, what would be restricted areas, what areas the county would be responsible for, what areas the city would be responsible for, the school that's over on the first floor, what they're responsible for. It just kind of lays all those areas out. But for us to be able to apply for funds, then the federal government will not allow me to put in a grant without some ownership in the area that we're looking at using federal funds to redo. So, again, I'm not the politician, and I just work for the transit department itself, so, you know, any of the combinations that you guys talk about between, you know, the councils and the administrators and the city managers and those kind of things, I will certainly leave that up to you to do. But I just know that I think it would be of value, since we do have our transfer point over at Old Kent School,
What
to
would
be able to
be-
add those values to the customers and the passengers,
Okay.
having those things.
What will Anderson County, what can Anderson County get out of a partnership, you know, with you? You know, how would that help us?
Well, I think, and Mr. Dunn, you tell me if I'm wrong, we went through the building, you and I together, at one time. And of course, the second floor is pretty good size. And transit may not need every bit of the space that's on that second floor. So by redoing that, there could be a possibility of some office space, other types of space that could be used by the county, as well as, you know, again, as a partnership in the building. You know, it could be some of the things like that that we could do.
And if the city ceased to use it as a transit
Go
headquarters.
right back to the county.
Debt service and all.
Are you,
Thank you. You were telling us about what it could, you would not take Anderson County's debt service. We owe, we have an $8 million bond on this thing, okay? Well, that's common knowledge, that the bond belongs to Anderson County, number one, and number two, Anderson County is gonna have to pay that off. And I don't know no fool that would go in and take over somebody's liability as far as concerned. But you would have a part in taking care of that building, Mr. Scott. You will have a part in taking care of the building, using the building, and helping to maintain.
Pay any utilities,
Pay the utilities, and keep it from cutting in itself. And as he just said, if it turns out that you are not going to use the building, then everything reverts back to the county. Now, I was told years ago that the city wanted to take the whole thing. You wanted us to sign a document saying that you could have the whole thing. I found out just recently that that was not the truth. This is when the new council came in and they were fighting this thing. But I was just told that was not true. People in that area want a change. People in Anderson County, whom I have talked to, who have included doctors, people in high places, as well as people in low places, whom I have spent this past 2-3 weeks intentionally calling them up on the telephone and ask them, what do you think about the building? And they want it. They want it. And I would like to see it move along. I'd like to see us in a working visionary partnership where we can get the mechanics building useful, have it to be a vital part of this community, and without us being so short-visioned.
Well, I think it would be something that would fit in with the partnership that we have pretty well. We could make the entranceway for the transit side, so to speak, to be on the opposite side of the building than where the entrance is on the other side, or some of that where Meals on Wheels and that kind of thing are, it'd kind of be on the other side. So, you know, we would look at it as a way that we would take the value, whatever the value of that space is, and be able to take that, use that as local match, and then depending on the value of the space, would let us know how much money we would qualify for. So we really wouldn't know that until, we had the appraisals done and things like that. We may have to update the regime document or whatever, but it would just be something nice, I think, in our partnership to be able to add to the transit operation as a whole, which would serve all of us.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you. Rita, do you have information for me?
I do, yes
Good,
ma'am.
thank you.
What are you doing now, Ms. Wilson?
It seems from this line of discussion that what we need instead of politicians is mathematicians. The county in the previous council and administration gave the city the use of those football fields, and it seems to me it was in perpetuity, wasn't it? It was some long range.
50 or 90 years or something.
And the county received little or nothing in return. And when you're talking about a partnership, it seems that both parties should receive something of value. And in many of our much of our work with the city, we have gotten far less for our level of participation, and that does concern me. When you're talking about $8 million, it would be important for us to look at the debt service, and if we could trade some debt service or all the debt service for the bus service, I think that might be a good starting point.
Now, of course, and I will, again, turn that over
Well, I
to
just
you
wanna say,
guys to do that.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate the, you said your opening statements. You're not a politician, you don't make those decisions, thank goodness, you don't. But
I hope that we never have fell short of the transit side of things.
But,
I hope that we've met our requirements there. So.
I just want to say, as I said earlier, I appreciate the transit department, keep spending your leadership, and the city manager letting you and the city council do what you've done, and being willing to work with us on this problem we've got with people like this. And I know what's happened in the past. I'm wanting, the whole thing about this day is move this county forward. I want to work, I want to do what's best for the citizens. And I think there's some common ground there we can get. You can't do it. It ain't gonna happen today here to negotiate no deal, but I think we can get agreement for the best citizens of Anderson County. You gotta keep in mind, the building as it sits is not getting in no better shape, so everybody keep that in mind. Number two, the debt's what it is. We paying it whether it sits empty or somebody's there or whatnot. And thirdly, it would be good for Anderson County to have a good transit station or transfer station, whatever you wanna call it, good of it, but we do need to get something. And I'm not going to negotiate here and this, that, but I think we can come to some common grounds, putting it together, look forward to doing that. And we want to appreciate you coming here today and spending such time with us. And
I'll be glad and available to you. Any questions you have, I'll be glad to.
Please give them your phone number if they have any.
Mr. Chairman, he is here on my invitation.
Yep.
It was not that we needed something settled today,
No.
but we needed to have this idea launched
that's right.
for the new coming council year. And I didn't want it to go into a committee and we just sit behind the committee chairs and listen. I wanted the public to hear it, because it is going to possibly be a viable project that we will undertake. In fact, I will do my best to see if I can move it into a position where the council can think about it, talk about it, and let's vote about it.
And I've given Mr. Burns my card. Has my email address and phone number at the office on it. If you email me, if you need my cell phone number, I'll be glad to give that to you. So I'll be available to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. And we'll be having small meetings tonight, and I'm going to get something set up. I want all council members, keep their mind to go back down there and look at that building. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
At this time, Mr. Burns,
Are we going to
PDFs and assets.
Are we going to EMS, we're going to emergency preparedness? We're going to emergency preparedness. Y'all set up? Mr. Dunn, there's been a lot of talk in the county for some time about how we connect with the citizens and how we make it easier for the citizens to get in touch with Anderson County. You know the great work that Mr. Hopkins has done on YourGov, and I'm happy to say that it's already getting used right now, and we just rolled it out. How many we have today, Hall?
Round 10, I think.
Round 10?
9 of them was probably Mr. Waters. He only meant to do it once.
Well, thank you, Mr. Waters, for today.
That's what he went out to the car a while ago.
And
Well, you said I couldn't use it.
And one of the other great things we've done in emergency preparedness is Safe Towns. Safe Towns, as a young person who told me, who happened to be one of my daughters the other day, told me, Daddy, it's addictive. Because you can see and hear and know everything that's going on. But one of the things that, if council agrees, that we would like to move to is Access Anderson, a 311 type system. Now, we could go do a 311 system and we could give a certain telephone company $350,000 to do that, but we're not in any position to do that. But we can work towards an integrated system that involves Twitter, Facebook, everything else, even the possibility of a television station. But we would just have to move some people at the present time. They're already here working for the county. Like right now, when you call the county, you dial 260-4000. On this, you would be able to go to one point and ask any question about taxes, about this, about that, about anything. The only thing that you wouldn't go to this for would be 911 and emergency.
Mr. Burton?
Yes.
And please, because Mr. Allen put Mr. on the spot, we brought this up the other day. Don't get this confused with 211. Because we do have a 211
That is run by the United Way in association with MedSure. And they primarily handle calls for nonprofit services. I think that's a quick explanation. If we could take a second and show you a brief video and then have some discussion about it. And that's all, we're just making council aware. Mr. McDade?
Hold on. I'm right there with you.
Today, people expect a higher level of service in just about every aspect of their lives. Competition in the marketplace makes it mandatory for the private sector to make it easier for customers and clients to access information and make service requests. Today, even local governments are getting that message. Citizens want an effective and efficient way to get information and make requests for government services. In this age of increasing expectation, government cannot afford to fail to meet that need for their constituents. In the past, people seeking information and services from their local government depended on the blue pages in the phone book. And while there's still a segment of the population that relies on such a physical book, they are increasingly becoming the minority. For the past decade, people have turned online to find information about their government, and in recent years have turned to using their mobile devices. It is in this light that we in Anderson County are developing a concept called Access Anderson. Access Anderson is designed to be a single point clearinghouse for the public to obtain information about their county government, make requests for county services, pay taxes, and learn more about their county. The Access Anderson web platform is not just for use on a conventional desktop or laptop, but it's also optimized to be mobile device friendly, including tablets and smartphones, which is the fastest growing segment of internet traffic. We spoke to one of our employees, Rachel Skipper, about the importance she finds in using this new technology.
Yes, I think that would be easy.
Okay.
Road. I mean, what you have with you is your cell phone. So if you could stop and take a picture and then directly send it in, that would be easiest for people.
How long do you use telephone books like the other pages?
I haven't used one since I was really little.
For a long time?
Yes, long time.
For those questions that require interfacing with a person to minimize misdirected calls, Access Anderson will deploy a one-number-does-it-all 311 system. Citizens can call one number instead of trying to go through a long list in the blue pages to get their questions answered in a timely and efficient manner. They can even use this number to make service requests and report problems. Already, Anderson County has deployed several web-based solutions and applications to streamline getting information to the public. For example, Anderson County was the first in the nation to make available SafeTown. SafeTown is a collection of applications that allow the public to input information helpful to first responders and also provide community alerts. From our sheriff's website and SafeTown, you can find out who the Anderson County Detention Center simply reviewed. YourGov.com is a way for the public to input information about problems they note in the county. Plus, the Emergency Services Division has launched an app for both iPhones and Android-based smartphones. Local governments that have enacted such forward-thinking solutions have found that citizens' approval of their local government significantly increases, plus the resulting cost-saving benefits. An additional component of Access Anderson will be Access Anderson TV. From the Access Anderson web portal, citizens can view videos on their computers and even smartphones that provide information about county government, including government meetings, particular county venues such as park and recreation, economic development, county infrastructure, plus information about all county services. An efficient and open government utilizing a platform like Access Anderson is also a attractive to business and industries considering locating in Anderson County, and such a system becomes an invaluable asset to our local economic development efforts. As Anderson County looks to build a progressive future for Anderson, be the foundation providing mission access.
What we're looking to do here is to be able to tie all our capabilities together, have a total resolution.
Anderson County is coming a long way.
A total resolution of all calls coming in 911. Right now, 76% of all calls that come in the 911 center are administrative type calls. What this allows us to do is streamline all those processes using the latest and greatest technology platforms and integrate all that into a countywide education program to get better customer service down to every citizen. It also allows us times like due to disasters, when you have events to happen, pull the, like the recent snowstorm, be able to pull that staff in, take 911 calls. So we cross-train staff.
If this was implemented right, wouldn't this also, shouldn't this relieve some stress on our 911 dispatchers?
Yeah, it certainly would. It would take that call volume off of them, those administrative calls. In fact, I'll let Steve talk to what the administrator asked him to do about 2 or 3 months ago and kind of talk a little bit about kind of the social experiment that we've been doing there with the 311 administrative type calls. Tell them a little bit about that, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, Council, we have for the past couple months been kind of trying to walk before we run. We didn't want to rush to failure on anything to see if it would work. We ran the numbers to start with, and about 70% of the calls that we answer come into the admin line. The thought process being, as Mr. Burns said, you know, one-stop shop for everything. But in line of doing that, to take some of the workload, as Chairman mentioned, off of the 911 telecommunicator, because the call volume continues to increase, work demand continues to increase, like bringing Williamston on, which we need to do. But how do we take some of that load off, help the citizen at the time of admin calls, and also help the citizen at the time of 911 calls? So we've already routed the admin calls to a separate pod in there.
In the 911 center.
In the 911 center.
Okay, make sure I haven't been on too much of anything. What kind of calls?
Administrative type.
Administrative.
That's what I want
I'm
to
sorry.
And I just want to make sure, I know y'all talking, y'all shop call language, I want to make sure all of us understand it and everything that we're talking about. Okay.
And I apologize.
That's right.
I do mumble at times. But the administrative calls have been pushed over, allowing the emergency telecommunicator to focus primarily on the 911 calls. What that's resulted in, one, morale has jumped up just because they're not being slammed with everything because some of that workload has been distributed differently. But the citizens are getting better treatment and better care in both emergent and non-emergent side of the house. And that's the goal of this. Our calls are being answered in a quicker amount of time because they can focus on one task, so to speak. They're able to pay closer attention. We know that active listening in that line of work is how you succeed and how you deliver better care. So they're able to do that because they're not distracted by all the other things going on. So it has been successful. We've reduced answering times and we've reduced times getting to the responders.
How many, and I'll put you on the spot, Sheriff might answer, how many roughly calls a day or week for animal-related calls comes to your dispatch center?
I wouldn't know an exact number, but I can tell you that animal calls are our largest call volume.
Steve, it's roughly around 300 a day.
300 a day.
And this would help. They're coming through now on 911. I guess a lot of it's coming through, as I'm saying, it's coming through 911 calls.
Yes, ma'am.
And they're not necessarily all of them 911 calls.
They're not.
And see, the things like we got to say, kind of like report a problem. You know, those are not things you need to call a operator to, 911 operator to deal with. You can report an animal control issue electronically through your smartphone. You can report, you know, a pothole that you might see or garbage being dumped on the highway. You know, all of those things are just faster ways to communicate. And then the other nice thing about this is we respond back to the citizen by giving them a date and a time that this has been cleaned up. And then we shoot them a picture back of it being cleaned up, and they know they've received that service. And so it creates an open communications platform back there. Jail Tracker, for instance, we had 2 to 3 people in the detention center, administrative folks, that were getting inundated day to day with bail bondsmen calling, attorneys, family members that wanted to be incarcerated, you know, wanting to know information. Since SafeTown's been, that has cut down. Those other 2 people, Major Bryant has put to work doing other things in the detention center and reduced that down to 1 person. We're seeing in SafeTown in the mornings during the commutes from our radio stations, they're using that to try to get traffic to folks trying to get to work in the morning. So we've just launched this new Pulse Point, cardiac profile, where if you're in, say, Lowe's, and Steve goes into cardiac arrest, and because I'm a paramedic and an RN, I've signed up and registered for that. I mean, I didn't know Steve. Steve's over here on aisle 16. I'm over here on aisle 4. It beeps, goes off, says that there's a citizen's need here. So as a trained first responder, I go to, start migrating to him. Well, it also tells me where the closest AED is. So it allows citizens to be part of making their community safer. And that's what we're trying to employ here, is pulling the citizens closer, involving them more. Kind of goes back to what Mr. Waters says, our citizens are government. And if they can do things for themselves, then it cuts down on resources that we're being used and more, using those resources more efficient.
Is this the same type situation, or is it related to what we were told at council meeting the last time from Mr. Hopkins? He presented us with something.
Yes, ma'am.
So what he told us links in with what we're doing.
Exactly. It's steps that we're going together as the county. What we're doing is we're pulling all these technologies together to harness them, and the Access Anderson will be the main point. Web pages, all that, making those more user-friendly. So everything just kind of streamlines to easier access for our citizens.
So this Access Anderson all of this comes under the umbrella of Access Anderson?
That would be the goal, Ms. Floyd.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Is to have one point of contact that everybody could easily remember, to take advantage of YourGov, to take advantage of SafeTown. They're moving to integrate those together so there's one point of contact.
Okay. Because I'm not quite clear on this. Okay, so there would be 3 type of communicational systems. One is Your Town, one is something Gov.
One is YourGov,
Oh,
one is SafeTown.
Oh, YourGov, SafeTown, and this other one is
And it's even more than that, because it involves computer communication, Twitter, Facebook, all of those different forms of communication.
Okay.
And for the large part, most of them are interactive.
Okay, all right. Well, as we do this, it sounds good. You have no problems here. Sounds good. My only thing is, when you do all this stuff, make sure that the 82-year-old woman who wants to stay in her own house and take care of herself can understand what you're talking about. Because right now it's getting kind of confusing here.
We've got a solution for that when we get up with our EMS, when our EMS people get up and talk.
Okay.
Ms. Wilson's got a
Hey, thank you. For the past several years, I've had a lot of complaints about our county website. Apparently, it just never gets updated, or there are all kinds of issues with that. So what do we do about that now?
We are in the process of renovating that website, and I can tell you, I was going to save it for a minute, and it went live this morning. If you go to the same address that the old Anderson County Economic Development website, I beg everybody to take a look at the new and improved Economic Development website, which went live this morning, which is a leap from what we had, and it was done all in-house.
What you're proposing sounds like a real efficient consolidation of communications and information, but my experience with some of these folks is it comes at great extra cost. So what is the cost?
And right now, there is no additional cost at this point in time. If it grows, yes, ma'am, it would, but that would have to go before council to be funded before. But all we're
So
trying to do.
no extra cost. to
Not
do
at this
what
point in
you're
time,
doing.
ma'am, because
Can I
this,
just interject a minute, Ms. Vernon, and that, not only is this not, as we look at this, and I've looked at this for some time and talked about it, not only is no extra cost now, it should be a savings. It's because of not the redundancy, but the main thing, in my opinion, what I've seen of it, and talking to citizens that have used some of this and knows more about it than I do, is it's going to give us, it's not always just about this, and I'm, like I said, perfectly clear about being a fiscal conservative and about the dollar, but also everything's not about a dollar as much, it's about the service. And I understand Ms. Wilson's concerned about, if you pay way more than what the service gets, the service would be tremendously a thing about it for the citizens of Anderson County. It's just like for instance, I don't sure to throw nothing at me, so just step out and hear this. But we got a lot of I don't want to say grief, but a lot of concerns about when we sold Winston Dispatch into our 911 thing. About needing extra manpower and this right here, and it might be coming out. But this kind of thing would relieve some of that manpower need because it's freeing up people to do what they need to be doing, and at the same time, our citizens are getting talked to. I don't know if y'all have ever had this or not, but I've had many a citizen told me, not mad, that it took about 4 or 5 phone calls for me to get to this, or get to you before I finally end up somebody help me with my problem. Well, hopefully, if this 311 is put in place and done right, they're gonna make that one call, and that person, if they're doing their job, is gonna find out what that person's problem is, and get them somebody can answer their problem and get their need. That's what this whole thing is. I apologize.
but Mr. Chairman, if I could say something. The whole thing, at some point in time, there may be an additional person needed. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that's not true.
Yes.
We're not here at this point. But this is not a flip switch. This is a long process to integrate all of these items. Is that true, Mr. McDaniel?
That's true. We're looking at an 18-month to 24-month process to integrate this to where the current vision is. And I believe the vision, as people start seeing this and citizens start to comment and technology changes, that vision is going to grow. But I want to get back to one central point that Mr. Dunn talked about, and that ties back to what Mr. Hopkins said. A lot of these technologies we've already paid for in Anderson County. The YourGov integrates into the Cartograph CAD system for non-emergent things. All that tracks all your statistics, it tracks your cost, it breaks things down to a job, it tells how much time was utilized, it has that ability to change information back and forth to the citizen, and it does all that in real time. That's the kind of data that we can use to really drive down costs at all levels across the county, not just in emergency services, but in roads and bridges, within economic development. Everybody is touched by that. The other thing it gives council folks is it gives them statistics about services that their constituents are using. And it gives you a breakdown of that you can pull up and access at any time.
I think Mr. Waters, Ken, you got something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, this here will help Mr. Dunn, because he won't have to use his iPad to get to it, he just dial 311.
He wasn't gonna let you talk. I want you to know.
Well, I just think I'd like, the council to think about this, absorb any more questions, because I'd like for the council to give the administrator to move this forward and endorse this, to make sure the administration and all department heads get behind this push. And as I've been told, and I know I get aggravated because I don't know why I do something in my business like this. The government is a crawl to get something done. And I understand when we implement something like this, we want it to be done right, so we can't it won't happen overnight, but I like to see progress, and it shouldn't take no 2 years to get this done.
He still hasn't.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Krause.
Well, having been in the computer business since Methuselah, well, obviously it's a good idea. but I have two concerns. I remember one of our selling point to medical places in 35 states, where we said if you use this software, you will get rid of paper. Well, the other day I walked in Ringgold Hospital System, which was not one of our clients, but was indicative of our clients. They have paper records and they have computer records. And I said to the clerk, why are you all photocopying all this stuff into the computer? Well, we have to keep a paper copy and we have to keep a computer copy. So you can't always equate the fact that we go to technology, that it's going to be savings, but that's not my major concern. My major concern is people get overpowered by hiring how to manipulate through the minutia, for the lack of a better word, to get to where they want. I'll give you a good example. I wanted to look up a simple word on Google day before yesterday. The first 8 pages were advertisements trying to sell me something that's around that product before I could get to a page that told me what page I could define that thing on. Okay? You get where I'm going? Yeah. Oh, and I do have a third thing, a point I want to make. Thirdly, keep in mind that many people are not computer literate. In fact, actually one of my ministers,
Mike, you look at me when you say that.
No, I'm not looking at you. One of my old side ministries is to help elderly people if their computer gets viruses, they get pop-ups and they don't know what to do. If they call me and I come out there for free and do it. You know, people say, well, you know, I just want to use my computer for 2 things, email and Internet Explorer, Google. Okay? Well, keeping in mind, you've got a high percentage of, well, not a high, but a big percentage of the population that have the attitude, I only want to use it for this. Now, the young lady who had her smartphone in your advertisement, I mean, those people and my grandkids are the kinds of people that can do that because they can do that today. So, you know, I myself would like to see, you know, not only your verbal mission, but what is it you're trying to achieve incrementally, and what is the incremental cost of doing each one of those increments?
We can do that.
I know you can, but I put it in writing so that we know what the different steps are, and you can prepare the public so when that step comes, they'll be ready for it.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
I think that's a great idea. And I'd like to say also, and I know exactly what Mr. Crowder said, because but believe you me, when I bought it, I never thought I'd own these phones here, but it's a matter of workable time for me to understand.
I'm still back with just my old phone. I don't even have a smartphone, but I can know how to use it.
Mr. Waters, Ken, do you have anything else?
Well, I was gonna say, when he said computer literate, you can tear one up. That's,
Tom, you got anything?
I was gonna say, we just pulled up the economic development website, and I think it's nice you did it in Clemson colors. It looks good in Clemson colors.
Try to brand it right.
There you go, buddy.
But please take a look at it. Like I said, it went live today, and if you see anything wrong or something needs to be fixed, we can fix it in-house.
And I do want to echo Ms. Wilson's things too. I know you was going to talk about this because I asked you to a little bit. Our webpage needs to be, our entire webpage needs to be done, worked on. Does anybody have anything else on that?
Well, you know, on the webpage thing, it needs to be done, yeah. But at the time we did it, it served the purpose.
Yes, ma'am.
The webpage should always grow and increase as we grow and increase. But the problem that we did was we waited too long to do it. But so I'm not going to trash the webpage. It was good when we had it. It served the purpose. But we're growing, so the webpage should grow right
Yes,
along
ma'am, we
with
need
us.
to update all of our sites.
I agree. Webpage is great. I just think it needs to be updated. Kept updated.
Next thing, Mr. Chairman, with Council's permission, we'll have the EMS update.
Okay.
Mr. Scott Stoller. Scott, would you introduce your distinguished colleague and give a little of his background? I just think people need to know.
Absolutely. Before you do it, I would just like to say, I asked Mr. Stoller and his, staff to come today because this is about the future, about what they're coming. And Anderson County's EMS thing, we have got to do something about it. We made strides in the last few years. We've got to put the two QRVs in service in the last few years. We have expanded and paid for, I believe, Ms. Wilson, correct me if I'm wrong, Williamston, Belton,
And Pelzer.
and Pelzer, another ambulance. But we've still got, that's why we Mr. Stoller to look at, talk about that, we've got other areas. Anderson County is very large. We've got 27 volunteer fire stations that covers Anderson County. Just at Outland, that's not counting Honey Pass, Williamston, and Belton. So, and we've got nine EMS services.
Eight contractors plus the county.
Eight plus the county, so you can see where our lack come around. We've got to do something, and our county is only getting to be more populated and going out, so we've got to do this. And I have a meeting with Mr. Waters, Ms. Wilson, Mr. Moore, to look at the outland areas to try to do this. And I just want to bring up everybody to date and get our mind thinking about this. And I appreciate it.
I'll introduce James Davenport. James, can you stand for a second? Wave or jump up and down. James is a Special Forces medic in the U.S. National Guard. I'm sorry, U.S. Army. James was injured in combat about a year ago, and we've known each other for a long time. He was a paramedic years ago with a few different of our services, and he's come to work with me now and take advantage of his knowledge and experience.
Where's he from?
James, would you?
I grew up in southern Greenville County, and then shortly after age 18, I moved to Anderson, lived in Pottersville until shortly after 9/11, and I joined the Army. So,
Yeah, I'm proud of the fact that you live among us. Thank you.
you're welcome.
We appreciate your service.
Yes.
You're welcome.
How long have you been with us?
Now, just a few months, ma'am.
Just a few minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
I'm still technically a patient at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. I stepped on an IED, lost my left leg below the knee, so it's hard to tell because I try not to walk with one.
That's okay. Well, I do.
But
I do.
I'm not letting it stop me. It's just slowing me down a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We do appreciate it.
You're very
And
welcome.
thank you for the insight to hire a man with the ability to do what needs to be done.
He has the skills, and it's the right thing to do.
That's what we need.
Anyway, good afternoon. Appreciate you having us here. We'll try and move through this quickly. I know we're just 8 and they're probably a little tired. James, if you will.
Yep.
You'll pass the agenda even.
You have an agenda?
Yes, we're having some video.
Oh, it's it.
Yeah, it's not showing.
It's stuck. Stuck again?
Might be the input.
Yeah, it's the connection. Give me 1 second.
I'm sorry, everyone.
That's right. The video. Yes, it does.
Ken, you ain't never messing around.
He just walked. There we go. The whole thing walked. There we go.
Okay. I don't really want to read the whole PowerPoint to you. I think that's kind of ridiculous, but we'll hit on the high points. If you go to the next one, please. Call volume, I mean, you may have trouble reading that a little bit. 2013 calendar year, 29,369 EMS requests for service coming through the 911 system. That we've dealt with more patients than that, but some calls entail more patients. There may be
29, 34,000. 34.
29,369.
Yeah, you got 34,000. 34.
Oh, is it?
34.
I don't
Yeah, I don't
have
know.
the updated one.
Yeah. Yes,
Right, well,
34.
technical difficulty there. So 34, I think that was the 29,000 was in 2012. I'm sorry for that. Every one of our contractors and the county itself is 100% in compliance with DHEC regulations. The Department of Health and Environmental Control, the EMS and Trauma Division oversee what we do as EMS providers in the field. And we have to maintain licensure, certification, and that's checked on a regular basis, including inspections by them. Historical data, in 2009, 2010, the average EMS response time countywide, and again, it's an average, it peaks higher sometimes, is 6.5 minutes countywide. Average EMS response time about 18 minutes to the outlying areas. Those in particular were Ebenezer, Williford, Slabtown, Zion, Walker, Mackinac communities. The units are further away in those communities to get there. 2011 and 12, the EMS average response time increased to about 9 minutes countywide on average. Number of 911 calls have increased as the populations grow. People move in, people move around the county. The average EMS response time decreased from 18 minutes to approximately 5 minutes in the areas where we placed the 2 quick response vehicles, both the Ebenezer and Williford communities.
Scott, and you got this improvisation, I'll wait. What's the response time supposed to be for our contract and for DEA code, the standard guidelines?
We want an average of 90% of the time, a fracked out response time, of 8 minutes and 59 seconds on what we call a priority 1 call. That would be heart attack, stroke, seizures, diabetic, critical incidents. In most of the county, we're still meeting that or close to it. Some of the agencies do better, some don't do better. Geography, the call volume plays into that. We said the areas that had a little trouble, we've managed to, through your generosity, with the response vehicles out there and got the paramedic on scene a lot quicker. Right now, the 2 quick response vehicles are working 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We've gotten together with the fire departments. We're basing them out of fire departments. And we talk to them. Fire departments know their community better than a lot of other people. So we coordinate with them and let them have input on what will serve their community the best. 2013, the average response time still remains about 9-10 minutes countywide. Again, 911 calls are increasing, population is growing. The outlying areas of the county, that being outside of the Metro Anderson area, the Zone 9 EMS area, if you will, it's now about 52% outside of the Zone 9 area, and about 48% of the calls are happening within that. That's a change from a few years ago where it was reversed. So what's that showing us is more people moving in, more people having emergencies in the outside areas as opposed to the Zone 9 area of the county. Greater than twice a week, we're running into problems in some of the areas, especially on the east side of the county, and that is with the additional compensated trucks that you put on for the last year. We're running out of ambulances. Saturday is a particularly terrible time for that. So we do have a need to increase the number of ambulances out there and the efficiency of how we're making those appointments, adding things like automatic vehicle location.
Scott, if I may, last year, we put on Williamson Belton, Williamson Belton and Pelzer. They was already running the second ambulance. We paid for it.
Correct, sir.
Is anybody else now that you can count on in our system is giving us constantly a second ambulance on call that's not being paid?
None of them are 24 hours. Pendleton, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, typically has another paramedic ambulance up that they're putting out there on their own. IVA, Rescue Squad, typically doing the same thing. Honey Path, they typically don't have another paramedic unit on, but they do have a basic life support ambulance on, typically during the week. And a lot of them can step up in between running their non-emergency calls with extra trucks. Those are the ones that are doing it on a regular basis. So they're, Mr. Craig.
May I ask a question?
Sir.
Is part of the purpose of this presentation the concept of laying the foundation for some of the other ambulance services, the same thing that we did for the 3, where we paid for additional ambulance?
That may be one solution, sir. I'm trying to.
That may be one. Yeah. Obviously, there's another one.
Well, just let me.
I'm on that.
Yes, sir. I mean, no, he might. What I asked him to put, what the concept is to know that we've got to do something. Our growing to meet our needs, get behind something. And again, and I don't want to be redundant here, and I mean, look, we're not going to solve the EMS problem today, but I want to be thinking about it. I know I put a thing, I want us to be thinking about it and knowing there is a need. And I'd rather get ahead of the problem because I think we're behind right now. We're playing catch up, Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I just had a question for you.
Yes.
Somebody from Pendleton brought this up to me. They had an emergency situation. The Pendleton squad was out.
Hey.
Yes.
At Pendleton, blame it on the sheriff.
Sheriff, it's the sheriff, that was where I was going with this. So they called another nearby squad to come out. So they finally ended up getting the Pelzer squad to come over. But the question to me was, why didn't they call Clemson, which was a whole lot closer? Now, I don't know, is there a policy that we have to try to find a county service first?
No, sir.
Or why would that?
Clemson University, we rely on a lot in the town limits of Pendleton. Typically, that's been their response area. On a priority one call, if you will, the heart attack, seizure, stroke, diabetes, they will respond further out. And last night, in fact, sat down with Chief Daniel at the Clemson University Fire Department, EMS, and had that discussion about working together more and doing that.
So would the people at dispatch, though, look at this and say, and try to find the closest?
If I just may.
Yeah.
And it's a certain situation, I don't know if it was not, but it very well could happen. What's happening, this reason it's so important, I've found out here lately. Clemson could have been tied up and couldn't come. It could have been probably, and it could have tied up. This is what's happening. Yet we're having, here lately, it seemed like, I don't know what the problem, all the stuff that's happening. It seemed like, say like, Station A's it's tied up, so B should come in, but B's tied up, so Station C's having to come. That's what we're running more and more of right now.
Correct.
I didn't know that a problem exists. I'm glad that you brought this up. I'm glad you had him to come here because I didn't know that a problem was existing as far as our EMS service is concerned. We need more vehicles, you're saying, right? How much in danger are we as we wait until we can get the money or?
I don't know that there's a major problem. I don't know that it's really a significant danger. There are times, and depending upon the type of call, where it's more significant versus other times. No one's emergency is insignificant. Let me get that clear. What's an emergency to you is what's important. I have a different view on what's an emergency. And really the customer, the citizen's view is what's the most important thing, because that's who we're here to serve. The cardiac situation, heart attack, chest pain, cardiac arrest, a trauma, someone bleeding out. Those would be the types of things where time is of the absolute essence. There's other things that, while important, an extra 5 minutes isn't going to make that much of a difference. Yeah. Are we in crisis? I don't believe so. Do we need to get ahead of it because for several years we didn't have the growth to keep up? I believe we do.
So that's where we are now, trying to get ahead of it and trying to solve the problem before it becomes a major concern. Correct. That's where we are now.
For several years, prior to the actions of the council over the past couple of years, we've been behind to an extent. We've started catching up. We need to do some more catch up and then get ahead of the problem. And that's in my estimation.
One more question, please, Mr. Chair, because one more question. This is always, I always wanted to know, okay, as a person who have ridden in your means of transportation for a couple of times, are they all equipped the same way? Do they all have the same kind of instruments, the same kind of materials on board? You know, like, there's no one that's better than the other, right?
No, they all have to meet per DHEC certain equipment requirements, certain training requirements. A paramedic staffed and equipped ambulance is a paramedic staffed and equipped ambulance. There are those that go out and might buy an extra newer, fancier device, which may lead to quicker, better patient care. But would I be afraid to ride in ambulance company A versus ambulance company B if I had a problem and get treated by them? Typically not. I truly believe we have excellent care here. The one thing that we are having to look at is consistency of care, consistency of training, consistency of quality assurance. And I'm probably going to get into that in just a second here. But it's the consistency, so it's good all over, but I want it to be seamless throughout the county. We're a system. We shouldn't be looked at as 8 different agencies. We should be looked at as a county system. No matter where you get hurt, no matter where you get sick, you should be able to rely on the same level of care, the same equipment, the same throughout. Everyone deserves it.
Scott, thank you.
Anyway, typically, like I said, on the east side of the county, we tend to be running out of ambulances on the weekends. Saturdays is our worst day, just for a few hours. but there's times we're having longer response times because of that.
Excuse me,
Yes,
where
ma'am.
is the east side of the county? What are you talking about, east side?
Towards the Granville County border.
Gotcha.
On our way forward, what to look forward to, and this is just preliminary. This is not me sitting here begging or anything like that. The addition of second contracted paramedic or advanced life support ambulances to the Pendleton community, to the Honeypath community, and the Iowa community. That would help us with those shortages, with the longer response times. It would bring us up to where I feel comfortable and where I think we're providing a quicker and better level of care and response. The next thing is addition of 2 more paramedic response vehicles. We've looked at areas, and I named them before, the Walker Macmillan Slabtown area and the Zion community. Those tend to have still those longer response times. And we can bring those down. We've proven it with Ebenezer and Mulder. We can bring those response times down and make a difference in saving people's lives. We strive to put those quick response vehicles in fire departments or existing structures, co-locating, working together in partnership with other agencies such as the fire department, save the overhead. The last thing we want to do is go above and beyond. We want to be as efficient as we possibly can while providing the best possible service and care as we can. The next thing, an EMS coordinator position. Call it what you want. This has come from the point of a person in my position, basically monitoring contract to overseeing the whole EMS system that is growing all the time. That EMS coordinator, we coordinate training, quality assurance for the entire county EMS system. We touched on before about the quality assurance and training being separate. There's 8 different programs out there. And trying to bring that all together. Future planning and operations, coordinating the community paramedic program, which I'll get to in a minute, coordinates training and integration with life flight out of AMED, the helicopter service, and operational oversight, implementation of mass casualty and active shooter response systems.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
Aren't you the EMS coordinator?
EMS director, yes.
You what?
It's EMS director now.
So you are advocating a new position here
Yes, sir.
for EMS coordinator?
Yes, sir.
What will you do?
Oh, I've plenty to do. I come to these meetings to talk to you guys, oversee the budget. I'm still going to be doing this. Problem is, it's as we grow, one person can't possibly be as efficient as someone with help, someone with backup. I'm on call 24/7. I typically show up at work at 7 in the morning and usually getting yelled at by my boss to get home by 8 o'clock at night.
Well,
He doesn't advocate the 8 o'clock at night, it's just when he knows I'm out there.
okay, but listen. Are you asking now for the council to consider doing this, hiring an EMS coordinator?
Consider is the right word, yes, sir.
Consider, yeah.
If
Hiring
you
an EMS coordinator?
people determine it's appropriate.
Thank you.
Sure. We're working with emergency services right now, Taylor Jones's operation, their emergency preparedness to work on school shooting plans, do education, tactical emergency casualty care. It's basically an outgrowth of battlefield medicine. We learn our best about emergency medical care from the battlefield. There's unfortunately a lot of casualties there, as we know, and we learn how to do things better. One of the most preventable causes of death that there is in a shooting type situation, whether it be a school or a business, is extremity hemorrhage, bleeding out from an arm or a leg wound. If we get in there quick enough, you've heard that with the TSA agent out in LA during a shooting at the airport, several other instances, pretty much any type of mass shooting event. We get there quick enough, 4 to 6 minutes, we can do something about that. We can increase that person's capability of staying alive, going into surgery, getting repaired, going home to their family. So we're getting out there and trying to do more training with the schools, with the teachers there. We're actually had several meetings with all the school districts, getting them the right equipment, helping put them in the right direction for what to get, and working in partnership. That's the whole key to the whole thing, is working together to get more out there. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Be a second person in the EMS command structure. Again, I'm on call. Community paramedic program, next page. Abbeville County EMS currently is running a pilot. They're on the tail end of their pilot for a community paramedic program, and I will be providing everyone with a handout when we're done to explain it more. It's a community outreach program to serve underserved people, people that are going to the emergency department for things they don't have to go to necessarily. There are other options that they're just not aware of. People that have chronic problems, diabetic teaching, things along those lines, and finding other avenues for healthcare. It reduces the hospital readmission problem, which the hospitals don't get compensated for. It reduces the emergency load on the EMS system. That will turn around, instead of us running emergencies for the toothaches perhaps we can direct that person to, that's just one example, to an emergency dental clinic or something like that. A lot of options out there. We're running a small trial on that with our QRV paramedics, with the paramedics at Wilford and Ebenezer. We're revisiting patients that frequently fall, problems along those lines, and we're finding we get a lot of good response, a lot of good feedback from people in the community. Thank you for coming and checking on me. They'll come in and do safety checks, loose carpet, problems with doorways, just minor things that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but it's to save that person from having the incident to begin with. Along the lines of fire prevention, it's injury prevention, it's safety initiatives. And it's probably a natural outgrowth, that community paramedic program, of what you just spoke about, the Access Anderson program. Someone doesn't know what to do. I have a minor problem that doesn't meet the level of a 911 call. They can divert it over to the Access Anderson people, divert it over to the community paramedic program. We could send someone out without lights and sirens, without being in a major rush. People don't always know what to do. They don't always know who to call. 911 doesn't have to be the answer for everything. And with this, we can come out, talk to people, guide them in the right direction, work with primary health care physicians, and so forth. That's pretty much where we are, and I know I'm kind of rambling on. If there's anything I can answer for you, I'd be happy.
Ms. Wilson?
My question will be to Mr. Burns. Do we have any other department head who's on 24/7 with no backup?
No, ma'am.
Wow.
And he does a remarkable job, and he works way too much. And he actually, if there's a shortage, he will actually go out and ride on the ambulance himself.
And welcome to James. We appreciate your help.
Thank you. Anyone have anything to Scott?
Well, we will need to convene an EMS ad hoc meeting before too long and start delving into this.
I'm at your disposal.
Ms. Wilson, I wish you would urge your colleagues to do it sooner than later, because this is an issue that needs to be, we need to get way ahead toward the budget and be looking at this. And I appreciate it.
February is the month to try and get all this preliminary consideration out. Thank you so much.
Scott, appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Y'all have anything?
No.
Last page of that handout, that's the whole presentation, is a little more of a description of the community paramedic program. I went over it really quickly. If you have any questions, feel free to.
I think that is something that can bear fruit. Me and Scott just touched on this the other day about me. I'm excited about that. I think something can really help the citizens out on that. And secondly, I want people to realize the dead spots we got around the county we need to get fixed. And unfortunately, whatnot, a lot of them falls in Mr. Allen's area.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Burns. Mr. Dunn, next thing is the spec building, Mr. Crowder. Spec building.
Well, here.
Okay,
Spec building.
Who's going to do the hospitality factor? Mr. Burns? Thank you.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. No, I appreciate Mr. Burns asking me yesterday would I take this item, since it is a passion of mine and some of you. certainly appreciate Mr. Allen's comments this morning, that he had finally been moved away from a virtual building that requires software and all that kind of good stuff. I secondly appreciate the colleagues that voted the other night to accept the $200,000 from Blue Ridge. That was a positive move. If you will add up, look at your second page, you'll notice where we actually have $415,000 of available cash, even though Innovate Amazon has not written a check. They have assured me that we want the money, that they'll return it to you. You will recall that this was the same $150,000 that they lent us for another purpose, and then we paid them back in this budget here. So you can say that for a spec building, we have $415,000 of cash, and we have a set-aside loan with Santee Cooper for $1.8 million, potentially like a line of credit, for the lack of a better word, that we can draw against. Isn't that right, Mr. Burns?
Yes, sir.
And they have given us all the specifications. You will also notice that the interest rate of 2% for years 1 through 5, and so which is pretty good. Council has already approved going out on RFPQ for sites, and that has been done. We did have 3 sites that came in and made the offers. I do not know who those 3 are. Don't want to know, because don't want to be involved in the selection process. I understand that an engineering firm has been given the opportunity to evaluate those 3 proposals, because if you'll review the minutes of previous council meetings, you'll see where the RFP had certain specifications where a bidder could actually gain points or lose points depending upon how close they were to 85, cost of infrastructure, water, sewer, roads, other conditions that are laid out in the RFP. I understand that they will be have that information ready for the Finance Committee next week.
We should have that late tomorrow afternoon, Mr. President.
Tomorrow afternoon. And if
when will that be available for council members?
if we get it tomorrow afternoon, it'll be available then.
yeah, so that y'all can then review it and look at it and hopefully get it on the next council's agenda, but it's up to you, Chairman. We also have put out an RFP for the engineering services.
Yes, sir.
And so, do we know, have we actually received?
No, sir.
We have not received a
No.
response yet. And so we're making great progress under Mr. Burns' leadership to get that done. So it looks like all the components are beginning to fall together. So I hope that council will, in its wisdom, continue to move this project forward. I was not joking when I made my presentation at the council meeting not too long ago. I think council should seriously consider the development of an industrial park in the county, if not 2, one being close to the interstate and one being on Anderson County property, because other counties, not only in our state, but in other states, are positioning themselves to be attractive. I don't know how many of you watch television, but to show you the impact of fee in lieu of, in New York, they don't necessarily call it fee in lieu of. There are ads on TV just about constantly on CNBC, for those of you who watch the Business Channel, that say, come to certain zones in New York and you can have no taxes for 10 years. No taxes for 10 years. So we can say, well, we'll give you a better deal. We'll say pay a little tax and we'll stretch that out for 20 years or what have you. But the last thing I'd like to report on is the fact that reiterate the point that we are down in our inventory of buildings to be able to be shown. It's already been documented by my good friend, Mr. Allen, that Commerce will not even refer a site up here for certain kinds of prospects unless we have a spec building. So consequently, we have a company, I understand, in town, unknown, unnamed, I don't know who they are, but is potentially looking at the very last building that could even closely qualify an old kind of spec building.
Yes, sir.
But is well worn out. And once, if that property goes, then we have nothing in reserve. So we need to get certified buildings and we need to get certified sites if we're to be competitive. Because I can assure you again that the airport property, the 3,500 acres around the airport and the Antrim Port are going to be still competition for us to go against. And we need to be ready to meet the challenge, and only council can do anything about that. So I implore my council members to, as has already been said, we need to think about the future, not the past. And so we need to realize that to make money, you have to spend money. If you're in the business environment, you have to spend money to make money. And government's exactly the same way. The only thing we want to make sure is we're going to get a return on the investment. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Crowder. I just would like to say, repeat my opening statement today that a little bit we've been spoiled. Anderson County's been very fortunate to get the jobs and land industry we have in the last few years. And as I said before, if we steadfast and do nothing, we're gonna lag behind. We've got to be ahead of things, be proactive, go out and get these things. As Mr. Crowder said, we know we've got 2 or 3 good companies, industries looking at around Anderson County right now, and hopefully that's coming to bear. So we need to be proactive. Counties around us are being proactive. Oconee County is doing a lot of things, trying to attract and get in the ball game. And you hear people talk about this spec building is been sitting here for this long, or this one, that one, but they don't mention the ones that's been sold. Well, Oconee County's done whatnot. And you might not sell that building, but it's got to get, as Mr. Crowder alluded to, Mr. Allen alluded to, get your foot in the door to get a company here to get that. What I'd like to, I know Mr. Crowder alluded to this, and Mr. Burns, you can say or let us know very future, Mr. Crowder, what's our next steps to make this, for council, make it possible? I know about the QR he just talked about.
What Mr. Crowder stated is we get that proposal, we'll distribute it and make it available to all members of council, then a decision will have to be made on which site. Then we can begin to enter into negotiations because we have the monies lined up to pursue the land. Then we'll have to go out to bids for the building. Those are the steps will have to be. But I will want to say,
and there's one, I think you said engineering. Is that in the process?
Yes, sir.
Because we'll have to have the engineer. I'm sure to have all this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. But I will say one thing, just to echo what all members of council said. We do have a possibility of losing our last best building. That's a bona fide fact.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing, but we also have a problem, a good problem, that we're going to lose our best certified site.
Yeah.
And that's just happening this week. And I'm not telling you there's going to be an announcement next week. I'm just telling you that there's interest.
And that's great. Anyway, any other council members have anything? Ms. Wilson.
This is the one area that our county citizens and all of us can take great assurance in. Our economic development, where we've had so few jobs and we still have a lot of programs, but this program has been very helpful to this county. I think it'll be very good to look carefully at these proposals and come up with something that will help move the county further. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Mr. Burns and Economic Development for the part they played in this.
You say, I have to thank everybody who works for the county, because every one of us has a role, from building codes to road maintenance to everything.
And they've all done a fine job, I agree. And I appreciate that. Keep up the good work and keep those problems coming.
I just want to close on this one last thing, and I think Ms. Davis is going to have some use here in a few minutes.
Hospitality tax.
I'm not closing, I'm talking on this subject, is what I'm talking about. What I want to say is, when I come on council, some rest of you, with the recession hit and all this, there's three things you do get this turn, you can tax the people, cut spending, or grow. And I think Mr. Davis said a little bit, the growing, the jobs that we have created is starting to bear fruit as far as our revenue and stuff like that. And that's what, that's what I think is the biggest thing I think we want to see is growth. That's what we got to do, is keep growing and stay on top of this, keep this out. And I appreciate it, Mr. Burns, turn it back over to you.
Yes, sir, a discussion on the hospitality tax, and just to reiterate what the hospitality tax is, Anderson County has a population from the last instance of 190,000 people. 53,000 people live in municipalities, and they currently pay the hospitality tax. As you know, there have been several...
Excuse me,
Yes,
I should have framed this. I asked each council member through Mr. Burns and made one thing. Ms. Floyd asked this to be put on there. I'm not putting Ms. Floyd under the bus to bring up for information. This ain't something I don't see open up my paper in the morning and see Tommy Dunn put this on there. I'm not saying for or against. This is for information. People talk about a hospitality tax. That's all I'm saying to anybody or this council is for. This is for information. This has been going around for numbers of years. And I remember way before we got on council, I think Mr. Burns and Mr. Allen had a debate about this issue. I think a lot of things. So, Ms. Floyd, go ahead.
Yeah, I did put it on here, but just as other things were added, this is just one of the topics that I thought we just needed to talk about.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so, I don't understand why, you're calling me out.
Oh, I didn't call you out. I don't call you out so much. Where's that
But
I know how some people,
listen, I was standing up around before God, big man, and say, yeah, I put it on here. Because, I think it's about time we start considering this. And I'm not ashamed of it. I take full responsibility. I was hoping, I asked our illustrious chairman, you know who he is.
Right.
Yeah, to have somebody come up and talk to us. But he informed me he knows more about it than anybody in the state. So that's what we're getting ready to hear. Go for it, Rusty.
And basically, as everybody knows, it is a 2% tax on prepared food and beverages. That's what it is, and it is collected at the point of sale. Rita has looked at the numbers repeatedly to get an estimate of how much it could possibly bring into the county. And a conservative, and that's what we like to deal in, a conservative estimate is about $2 million a year. Now, it may be more, but $2 million is a conservative number. Now, what you can use that money for is where a lot of people get confused as to what you can use it for. You cannot use it to run a sports team. You cannot do that. You can use it to build facilities. In some cases, you can use it to pave roads if they go to a recreational facility. You can use it to fund improvements at your civic center because your civic center is a guaranteed tourist draw. And those are the types of things you can do. You can spend money at Mountain View Park to fix that up. You can enhance your facilities. You can make yourself tourist friendly. Those are the things you can do. And that money, how you spend it, really, to a degree, has to do with what your priorities are. And council would have to set those priorities if council passed this on what the money could be used for, and it's not an easy job.
Burns, if I may, if this were to pass, we were to have this thing, council, because I think, and I don't want to, again, throw nobody in the bus, but we've had different groups come to us over the years.
Yes,
just such a short time. I met for group, me and Mr. Allen, I think, and Mr. Moore before I got elected to council. After I got elected for a serve. But anyway, I was getting at, I guess you can do the same thing, but the council would actually be responsible for spending the money as far as approving the money where it goes. I think someone's got a mind, we're just going to divvy out money to a group over here or a group over there or something. But really,
Council could have an advisory commission, or they could make a recreation commission that, but the final decision on where that money gets spent is county council's decision. It becomes another budget feature.
You do it like an A-tax thing where the list comes
Yes, sir.
before.
But looser than A-tax, because we have some restrictions.
Ms.
on
Wilson's
that.
got it.
Yes, ma'am.
The two stumbling blocks we had before is the lack of trust of our citizens for us to put this into place. My position would be, it needs to be put out for public notice and public referendum. The overriding concern that we had all these people coming up fussing at us wanting us to implement 2 penny sales tax. However, what they needed the money for could not be provided under accommodations tax. We can't maintain the parks, can we?
Yes.
You can use it for, and I'm talking, improvements, but that's not cutting grass. Because you can't cut grass with that money.
So in essence,
You can pave the grass up
we
there.
can-
Pave over.
You can pave the grass.
we can make improvements, but we can't use the funds to pay staff and cost to keep the places in operation. Can't pay for security. Those are the issues that need to be spelled out, and that's why it calmed down after the community and neighborhood meetings we did before.
And as council's well aware, the rules on the expenditure of that money have changed. I mean, they have changed since it was originally started on what you can do. And they've loosened them up to a degree, but they're also now being more careful in how to spend that money. Because in the old days, there was nobody coming to look at what you did with that money. I mean, they did catch some people who decided to pay the police department parking lot and put a new roof on there. That was so egregious that that stood out and they got them. But those are the things you can do with it. That's it.
But,
excuse me, go Yes, ma'am.
okay. But let's look on the positive side of what could be used for. Look around at what's happening in our city. We have a beautiful Reardon Park, downtown Anderson, that would not be there had it not been for the accommodation tax dollars. Look at the recreational center. They've been able to add more playing fields and more activities for downtown, for the city. Look at us. We're having to beg for park money, and then we're going to have to come out of our recreational fund to put the park money in there. It's possible that if we could get a hospitality tax for recreation stuff, we could get rid of the money that's doted out to us for rec funds. So I think it's $25,000 or maybe a little bit more. We could save money there. Look at this one particularly. How many of you in here, and I want to show of hands, even the camera guy, how many of you in here eat in the city of Anderson in the restaurant? How many of you? Every last one of you. And every last one of you pay the tax. Every last one of you pay that tax. Now, isn't it dumb? I use dumb. Isn't it dumb that you can deny the people of Anderson County something that's already here? If you don't want to pay the tax, then just don't eat. Just don't go downtown. But the tax is needed. How are we losing money? 85 comes back and forth to thousands of people. And where do they stop? Cracker Barrel, all those places up there, they don't pay us a dime. They don't pay us a dime. Let's get some of that money, folks. A 1% sales tax up there would generate most of our funds. Try to go to Red Lobster on a Saturday or Friday night. Who are you going to run into? Georgia. They're riding our roads. They're stopping at our traffic light. They're parking at our parking spot, and they pay their little money, and they go home. They leave us a dime. Why not let's charge that 1 cent pay? Let them help us pay. We need to get rid of old, archaic. Is that the word, archaic? Yeah. We need to get rid.
You pointed to me when you said archaic.
Yeah.
No,
We need to get rid of these old ideas, folks. The money is there. We need to get rid of old ideas, and let's start thinking about the future. Let's start thinking how we can help. Oh, you go on, you get on the radio, you holler, oh Lord, they're going to do more taxes. No, we're not. Why do we need to have a referendum? A lot of the people don't have to do it. This is not a tax where you have to pay. This is a tax that you pay to help the recreational people if you want to. If you don't want to eat here, go to Georgia. If you don't want to eat here, go to Greenville where you're going to pay it anyway. That's all I got to say. I'm passionate about it because I'm a little sick and tired of it. This is an idea that could help us, not with all of our roads, Mr. Burns, but it could surely help us with some of our roads. The money that we pay into Civic Center, it could be used for something else. Could be used to help us do that airport that we need because it would alleviate money. I mean, it's just a win-win situation. This is not a situation where I'm not going to let this happen because I don't like this, or I don't like Gracie Floyd, or I don't like people. We need to get together and push this one. The city is no better than we are. And with that, I promise you, I'm not going to hear another word.
Mr. Burns, just a couple things on that. Who all don't besides Anderson County around us don't do the hospitality tax? I mean, for like Pendleton, Belton, Iowa, who all?
Every town in Anderson County has the hospitality tax.
But Pelzer?
No, sir.
They got it now?
Pelzer approved it, so Pelzer has it now.
Say on Clemson Highway, a restaurant in Anderson County now, if we had it, and then the city annexed them, would we still get our part of it, or would the city take it money?
Yes, sir, you can still get your part for a little bit. But more, yes, sir, what Mr. Crowder said. But as the city would expand, you don't get it. The city would get it. And it's just what Mr. Crowder said. Now, I'm not trying to hurry this, but you said you wanted Rita. We have got that information. You want us to do it now?
That's what is anybody getting comments?
I got one more question about that. One of the things that I've heard is the money that's taken in, if we did do the hospitality tax, that part of that money would go into the general fund. So they were concerned that money would be spent in the general fund instead of hospitality.
Every dollar that's spent has to be budgeted and approved by council where it would be spent. If you decide to spend it on the Civic Center, then that would improve your general fund by at least by that amount.
You can't
take. But it stays in the hospitality tax. Is that correct?
You can't run around with it.
That's
Reach a
the
certain
question.
point until you reach a certain point.
Yeah, but wait a minute now. Wait a minute. This was the first item on the agenda, and I don't want to shortchange this. Okay, I know Rita, we want to hear from Rita, but I want to let's give this our due attention because this is something that we're going to have to face this year. And council members, I'm hoping that you will talk with me. I'm hoping that you will ask questions and bring back what you hear. So I'm hoping that this is something that you can see that's worthy of Anderson County. How are you going to have all of the fish swimming around you in a pond and you're supposed to be the big frog and you won't get off the lily pad? You say, good.
Mr. Dunn, with Council's Commission, it's 2:06. If we could have about 8 minutes, we have got the information. We finally got all the financial information. Okay. After this retreat, we're going to be sending out budget packets. Just to let everybody on council know, budget packets will be going out. Rita has an update. Rita?
Yes, sir. Rita's all right, okay, we can run out, we got a few extra minutes.
Are y'all good?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. No.
Block it.
What
Yes, sir. Mr. Burns asked me just to give you a financial update of where we are January 31st this year, and I think you'll be pleasantly pleased. You can't have that.
Thank you, ma'am.
If you'll notice, we put a comparison to fiscal year 13, and you'll notice that going through the expenditure side, this is as of course, 7 months, which you would think would track about 58%. If we were spending it on an annual basis, you divide it by 12, and we would get 58. However, we're only at 50% as of January 31st, and you'll notice that the revenues up above are 77% compared to about 73% this time last year. Jason said that people are paying their property taxes more current. And so the way we're tracking it, Mr. Dunn, just so you know, as we think about the upcoming budget and we move into it, last year our fund balance was over 3 months. And if council desires to dip into their fund balance, I think we still would be well above our 2 months that is in our ordinance, our budget ordinance. It's not, that's the where we place it, it's not a separate law. But I think that council will be pleasantly surprised when we get to the end of this month, and please, with your indulgence, I'd just like to pass out one more thing. Mr. Burns asked me, well, you know, we budget the usage of net income. What have we done in the past? At the bottom of this page, you'll see a comparison of what was budgeted and what we actually did spend. And you'll notice that, like for last fiscal year, we budgeted $1.1 million. However, we're going to have about $1 million in fund balance. So I said all that to say, you know, that we have over 3 months unassigned fund balance that is available. We want to keep, we call it our rainy day fund. We want to keep that in case of emergency, God forbid. It's just prudent.
Question. What is the total amount of money in the fund balance? I know you just said you just said $1 million there, but what is the total?
The total
last time I heard was 13?
17,000,000, about 580,000.
Okay, now.
Total, we don't want to look at the total, we want to look at the unassigned, what's not been set aside.
Okay, now, my next question. So we have a 3-month leadway.
Yes,
what is the average amount of leadway you're supposed to have in that according to the month? You know, it's supposed to be 3 months or 4 months?
Well, the governmental accounting world, well, they'll tell you as a guideline, that's up to council, but they say 2 to 6 is what they recommend, and they will not tell you exactly what that should be. That's up to the local jurisdiction.
2 to 6.
Yes, ma'am.
months.
So you're tracking about $5 million a month.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If you may, I think you should know this, possibly here, put you on the spot. Fund balance now is roughly over $17 million, correct?
Yes, sir.
What was it we come on council?
Is, sir, on the
Yeah.
sheet I just passed out, you'll see that. And what year would that be, sir?
Say 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
5 years ago, the unassigned fund balance, which is what I look at, is about 9.1 million. And it's grown to 15.8 at 6/30/13.
So what was it though?
9 million.
9, yes
Okay.
ma'am, now it's almost 16.
Okay, but a couple of years ago, our folks were getting pay raises too, were they not? 5 years before the new council came on, they were getting pay raises, longevity raises. We had people hired who are no longer with the county now. You know, so that's just like, you know, one hand does the other.
Yes, ma'am. You're exactly right. What paying insurance was paying a few years ago, but and the other thing is, my whole point being, we've come to this point, being conservative and saving this money. I don't go out here like a drunken sailor and go out spending. This is what I prefaced my statements on earlier. This is what you should be thinking about. This is road money in my opinion. I'm one council. Things get to put in roads. It's time to do something about our roads. Ms. Wilson.
It should go noted that any insurance increase in cost, which we've had dramatic increases the last several years, does represent a tax-free salary increase to our employees. Unfortunately, that's just the way our realities work now. The other thing that must be noted is that when our new council came in, we had over around $29 million of new debt dumped on us by the preceding council. And this council has worked hard with staff to cut down our debt service. At that point, I think we had, around almost $10, $11 million in debt service we had to pay out every year. So we've made dramatic improvements in that regard. Now, to put it in perspective, I'm not finished.
Well, you've heard
We
it.
have to put this into perspective in order to understand why we are where we are.
Listen, it is what year are we in? 2014? 2014. Let's put behind this old thing, and let's put behind us the old council versus the new council. Let's put behind us what we did do or what we didn't do, how it was. Let's stop all of this crap and let's get on about the work of doing with the people. Let's put Joey Preston to bed. Let's use this same money of $9,000 to $10,000 a week, a month. Let's put this money into doing things and buying EMSs. I'm so sick of hearing about how it was before you came on council. And I'm tired of trying to tell you that you're not telling the truth. Let's stop it, folks. Let's stop it. Let's get, wait a minute. Will you stop that? Let's get about the business of handling Anderson County business. I don't care how long you've been on. I don't care what you think you did. Let's work now to get it right. That's the first thing we do. Let's hire us an administrator so we can move on. In the words of Anderson County people, amen.
May I make a comment? Well, to some degree, I was not on council way back when. So, hey, but I do resent any accusation that says anything that we present may be untrue. When I speak with figures, documentation to prove my point. If I get that, I don't speak on fluff or political influence. Okay, so, hey, secondly, I can prove a point being calm, cool, and collected. I would like to, may I ask Rita a question, please? I apologize for that. I do not want my personal integrity impinged by anybody.
Rita?
Okay, Miss Rita.
Yes, sir.
On the wonderful data that you gave me, and y'all, staff and Mr. Burns are to be complimented by keeping their budgets in control. So don't misunderstand any questions that I ask now. It seems like I don't appreciate that. But for example, on the capital, we have $1.2 million basically budgeted for capital.
Yes, sir.
Well, keeping in mind, I just saw, where there was a request to use money and to buy some vehicles, and they were. So this was through December 31st.
January 31st.
January 31st?
Yes, sir. Those
Okay.
have not been purchased yet.
Okay.
And we did not
They haven't
project
been
out. This is
okay.
action.
But I reckon the point that I'm trying to make is that if you did spend all the money in capital, you would not have such a low percentage of budget being used, because that's a timing issue.
Correct.
It's a timing issue.
That is correct.
Just like payment of certain kinds of insurance are timing issues.
For sure, yes, sir.
That they only come due, and so.
That is right.
So, and the transfers out, that's just a matter of when you need to do the transfer out.
March.
March.
Yes, sir.
March.
And you're correct. This is a point in time.
Yeah, this is a point in time. And so, you're to continue to be congratulated on that. But the point is, we don't want people to say, well, we got all this money to spend.
No stress. That's right. Our tax money comes in really by January, and you're right. We keep on spending.
That's right. So,
Point well taken.
So, it's kind of like, we got all this money, now let's spend it. Well, the only reason we got all this money, paper money, is because it's the timing issue. It's not time to pay it out.
Correct.
But you're still being frugal.
Yes, sir.
That's the bottom line.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to make that point.
We are.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Bottom line, it's growth. You're exactly right, but it is,
It's going in a
that's
positive
going
direction.
positive direction.
Yes, sir.
One more point, as any member of council knows, they can call up with anytime and ask for anything they want to. The other thing, it appears, thanks to Ms. Davis, that we might need to review our bonded indebtedness
Correct.
and see, because of the changes in the market, that we could reduce some expenses. And Rita's looking at that right now. We'll be bringing that to council.
That'll be coming forward, and also, was hoping to have this today, but was not able to, get this, but I fee in lieu of this stuff is gonna be, you'll be getting a report out to council members on that in the very
Yes,
near
sir, we
future,
will.
right?
Yes,
Everybody,
sir.
everybody know that, and that's looking, my understanding, that's looking very positive
It's,
too.
it's too early to tell, but we still have more conversations with the president.
In closing, and I do want to apologize for going over, but I think we had a good meeting today, running over a few minutes, trying to get back on track. I'd like for everybody to look at the mission statement and have some comments and inputs on this that we had today. Everybody's got a copy of it, because this is council's, Anderson County Council's mission statement that we need to approve and adopt, and get everybody's inputs on that. I also would hope to think everybody leaves here with some information and knowledge and with a job, and I hope everybody will leave here with one thing on putting our best foot forward for the citizens of Anderson County, to do what's best for the citizens of Anderson County and our future and everything. That's what my goal is, and what I hope to see us accomplish. We've got a lot of work to be done, but working together, we can accomplish this and do it betterment for the citizens of Anderson County. And I've said many times, and I will say in the future, again, Anderson County's done a lot of good stuff in the past, and we can do a lot. I think Anderson County's on the cusp of some greatness. We'll keep our focus set on the citizens, what's best for Anderson County. I think we can accomplish this and do this, and we're not going to always agree on everything. That's what, even with our partnerships around, but we need to find and work where we can do after common ground. I've got a big crawling stuck in my throat about the city of Anderson double water rates. But I'm still trying to work on that, but I'm willing to work with them when we can find common grounds and get other things done for the citizens of Anderson County. Me just getting mad because of that and not talking on nothing else ain't gonna achieve or accomplish nothing. And so I urge everybody to look at that on big pictures on everything as we do this. And in closing, I want every council member to please try to keep them brief, but have a few short words have to say. I'll start with my lady, Ms. Floyd.
Thank you. What I got out of this, what do we call this?
Retreat.
What I got out of this retreat is I really found our objective and our visions for this year coming up. I heard a lot about transportation. I heard a lot about the road bridges, pay raises, sewer, the trash, the mechanics building, airport building, hospitality information, jail, detention center, EMS coordinator, and us working together